From any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. 3, 2, 1. Now live from the Devil Radio Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Here is your host, Mike Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, perhaps a Sports Talk Tuesday edition. Lots of sports news from my hometown. A-Rod, Aaron Rodgers, the most despised player in the NFL, is re-signing with the Green Bay Packers for $50 million a year. That is a lot of cheese. So anyways, we might get there. Hour two. Also, Greg Gard, the Badger coach, and you know they are my beloved Badgers, Big Ten Coach of the Year. Johnny Davis, Big Ten Player of the Year. So lots of great Badger news, and also a former Badger great. And, I know this is a political show. I'll get there in a moment. But Russell Wilson was a transfer quarterback that played right here in Madison. And I had the opportunity to meet Russell Wilson many years ago through a former career. And he was a pretty poised young guy. I didn't know he was well on his way to being a millionaire when I met the guy. He had already apparently signed a baseball contract. He had already cashed out. The kid had more money than I did, but I didn't know it. But he came off as a very poised young guy. And he was perhaps the best Badger quarterback that I've ever seen. I mean, the guy just had a knack. Russell Wilson did and does. And apparently he's going on to greener pastures, leaving Seattle, going on to the Denver Broncos. So, the Sports Talk line is open at 844-967-2789. But we'll probably reserve most of that talk for hour two. The political headlines of the day. And there are a couple of big headlines as far as I'm concerned. The banning of Russian oil imports. That's a really big one. I think even our conservative friends that called in yesterday on the big show, a lot of them agreed with yours truly that that's where we need to end up. And I find it very ironic that, so many of these Republicans, they keep wanting to push Biden. He's not doing enough. He's not doing enough. He's not sanctioning them enough. Well, he did that. Well, he's not doing the SWIFT system. Well, they did that and worse. Well, he's what? He's doing it all. And now they are banning Russian oil imports. Sure, is it a change of policy? Yeah, man, it's been a week. The war's been going on, like 2 weeks. This is rapidly moving. Our president's doing all the right things and really staying one step ahead of these Republican clamorings, which are always a day late and a dollar short, to do a little more. Why isn't Joe Biden doing more? Well, guess what? He is doing more continuously. Really making your tweets and your missives. He's dating them. They're not dating well. They're not aging well. So anyways, here's what Biden had to say today. And we've got some sound. We're going to play it for you from the Washington Post. U.S. to ban oil imports from Russia as White House explores drastic plans to buffer the economy from an energy shock. And the same Republicans that are all clamoring to have him do this will all blame him in short order when gas prices spike higher. But anyways, let's jump in. The United States will ban imports of oil and natural gas from Russia, President Biden announced Tuesday, a decision reached after days of behind-the-scenes talks that revolved around the protecting of the global economy from an energy shock. The move represents one of America's most far-reaching actions to penalize Moscow since the beginning of its invasion into Ukraine. It would carry enormous geopolitical consequences as the price of oil has already skyrocketed since Russia's invasion of Ukraine, creating huge new costs for businesses and consumers. Now, we've got some sound from the president. Let's go to the rundown rather than quote it. Let's do Joe Biden earlier today, talking on this very topic, a ban on Russian oil. Cut number 10, if you would. Fancy Evan.
Today, I'm announcing the United States is targeting the main artery of Russia's economy. We're banning all imports of Russian oil and gas and energy.
Well, he could do it a little more enthusiastically, but I like the message, Joe. More from the president. Cut number 11. We're not accepting their oil at any U.S. ports. Cut 11, please.
That means Russian oil will no longer be acceptable at U.S. ports, and the American people will deal another powerful blow to Putin's war machine.
Cut number 12, if you would, Evan.
This is a move that has strong bipartisan support in Congress and I believe in the country. Americans have rallied to support their Ukrainian people and made it clear we will not be part of subsidizing Putin's war.
I've got to admit, I've been modestly surprised by the reaction of the American people, and that is a tone of sacrifice. They are willing to pay higher gas prices for this consequence to Putin for his invasion of Ukraine. Let's keep going. I think we're up to 13, Evan. Let's do cut 13. President Joe Biden.
We're moving forward with this ban, understanding that many of our European allies and partners may not be in a position to join us. The United States produces far more oil domestically than all the European countries combined.
So we are more self-reliant, and, not all allies may get on board with this move, but I still admire this move. This is a courageous move. This is exactly what Republicans have been asking our president to do, and he's not doing it because Republicans want him to. I think Joe's doing it because he thinks it's the right way to punish Putin, obviously, for this aggression. Cut number 14, President Joe Biden.
We can take this step when others cannot, but we're working closely with Europe and our partners to develop a long-term strategy to reduce their dependence on Russian energy as well.
And this is going to hurt. There will be sacrifice required. Cut number 15, President Joe Biden.
This is a step that we're taking to inflict further pain on Putin, but there will be cost as well here in the United States. I said I would level with the American people from the beginning. And when I first spoke to this, I said defending freedom is going to cost. It's going to cost us as well.
More from President Joe Biden, a bipartisan message to both Republicans and Democrats. Cut 16, please.
Republicans and Democrats understand that. Republicans and Democrats alike have been clear that we must do this.
Yes. That's exactly what Republicans have encouraged us to do, right? So Joe Biden's doing exactly what they asked, and wait till they cast shade and crap on him for it. But anyways, today we'll just listen to the president. More from President Joe Biden, and there better not be price gouging. To my thought process, it's already speculative price gouging that's going on, because it's not the reduction. We just cut off the spigot with Russia today. Let's keep it up. President Joe Biden, no price gouging. Cut 17.
Russia's aggression is costing us all, and it's no time for profiteering or price gouging. I want to be clear about what we'll not tolerate.
More from Biden, his message to big business companies. 18.
To the oil and gas companies and to the finance firms that back them. We understand Putin's war against the people of Ukraine is causing prices to rise. We get that. That's self-evident. But it's no excuse to exercise excessive price increases or padding profits or any kind of effort to exploit this situation or American consumers, exploit them.
It would be a very appropriate time to have some sort of a special tax, let's say. Margins and profits beyond a certain threshold should be taxed at a higher level in light of this world problem, this act of aggression from Putin. Now, I'm not saying the oil companies aren't allowed to do their business and make some profit, because certainly they do, but they're making record profits. Should they be able to make record profits off the American people in this time of national sacrifice? We, the American consumers, we're expected to do our part. How about a new tax proposal, Joe? I'm not saying I've heard this, but I think it'd be a good idea to propose one right about now. Now, the Russian people and their economy, it's tanking. The value of the ruble, I believe, is down 80% against the value of the US dollar. Joe Biden speaks to that point, cut 19.
By 50% since Putin's announced his war. 1 ruble is now worth less than 1 American penny. 1 ruble is less than 1 American penny. And preventing Russia's central bank from propping up the ruble and to keep its value up. They're not going to be able to do that now.
Well, rubles from heaven, I guess. Joe Biden also addresses the multitude of multinationals that are starting to pull themselves out of Russia, not doing business with Russia. Hell, you can't get a Big Mac in Russia now. My understanding is McDonald's finally closing their stores there, after they sold a few billion more Big Macs. But anyways, Joe Biden on U.S. corporations and companies pulling out without being asked, cut 20.
Major companies are pulling out of Russia entirely without even being asked, not by us. Over the weekend, Visa, MasterCard, American Express, they all suspended their services in Russia, all of them.
And more importantly, no Big Macs for Putin. No fries for you. No thick shakes. No McNuggets. We got time for more? I know we're starting to run short on time.
I would like one more.
Okay, how about cut 21, a longer cut? President Joe Biden on U.S. production. I believe he's talking about oil.
It's simply not true that my administration or policies are holding back domestic energy production. That's simply not true. Even amid the pandemic, companies in the United States pumped more oil during my first year in office than they did during my predecessor's first year. We're approaching a record levels of oil and gas production in the United States, and we're on track to set a record oil production next year.
Yeah, but what about the Keystone Pipeline, Joe? That's why prices are spiking and inflation's up, because you killed the Keystone Pipeline and you printed trillions of dollars, or at least that's the way Republicans will tell it. And Joe Biden did something that, I thought would be popular with Republicans, but you just never can tell, because it's always a moving target. It's like Lucy with the football. Oh, Joe Biden do this. Oh, Joe Biden did that. No, that's not good enough. Not anymore, because we moved the goalpost, and that football. Hope that didn't hurt your back, Joe. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates. You can be a part. We can talk sports or politics or pretty much any old thing. 844-967-2789.
What grows in the forest? Our imagination and our family bonds. The forest is closer than you think. Find a forest near you at discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
America, your children have an amazing superpower. They can help save lives by not having play dates. That's right. By replacing get-togethers with virtual play dates and video chats, they can help slow the evil spread of germs. And if your superheroes do go outside, make sure they continue their superhero wing by staying 6 feet away from others to protect everyone in America land. Find out more at coronavirus.gov. A message from the CDC and the Ad Council.
President Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates. He would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org.
Did I get it?
Should I wait?
Is it safe? It's okay to have questions about COVID-19 vaccines. Now get the facts. Visit getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision when COVID-19 vaccines are available to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Spruce up your home with soy candles from Wisco Home Goods. I'm Don, one of the owners of this family-owned Midwestern business in Madison, Wisconsin. Our candles are 100% sustainable and come in a variety of unique blends and scents. Did you know our candle jars are also double old-fashioned glasses? That's right, buy a candle and you get a free cocktail glass. Check out our blog at wiscohomegoods.com/blog for more information. That's wiscohomegoods.com/blog.
60% of the time, they're right every time. The Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Tuesday edition. Phone lines, they're open, 844-967-2789. We'll get there. Back to the Washington Post and their coverage on this U.S. ban on Russian oil. And my understanding is there will be votes in the Congress. But here's the article. Collectively, the measure from both the U.S. and Europe will deprive Russian President Vladimir Putin of one of his government's chief sources of revenue. Yeah, the oil bucks, but also risk a shock to global economic system that could severely damage numerous domestic economies. Russian oil accounts for about a quarter of the European Union's oil imports, but just 3% of United States imports. Still, it comes as energy prices are surging. The U.S. government and its allies have faced a difficult trade-off in trying to find ways to completely isolate Russia while minimizing the economic spillover. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell said last week that the consequences of Russia's invasion into Ukraine could ultimately amount to a game changer. In recent days, Biden and other world leaders appear to have acknowledged that the economic fallout is a necessary consequence for trying to punish Russia. One quick quote, and then we're going to the phones. Once again, 844-967-2789. This is a step that we're taking to inflict further pain on Putin, but there will be costs here as well in the United States, according to President Biden. I said I would level with the American people. We heard him say this from the beginning. And when I first spoke to this, I said defending freedom is going to cost us as well in the United States. He warned that energy companies warned against price gouging. We talked about that, and told them not to exploit this situation or American consumers. I'm less convinced they will not be exploiting us soon at the gas pump. 844-967-2789. Don't look at what it's going to cost. You know, freedom for Ukrainians, hopefully. Anyways, there are people suffering. And I know it's going to cost some Americans at the gas pump. It's costed me. It's costing you. Let's hope that we can all sustain and sacrifice, so that the Ukrainian people can eventually win back some sort of freedom. Jack from Merrimack, how's it going, man?
Well, it could be better. At least in this country, all the worst we can have is paying higher gas prices. We're not getting our kids, our parents, ourselves bombed into the Stone Age.
Yeah.
But I wanted to say, here's an idea. We actually produce enough oil in this country that we have exported on average tens of millions of barrels per month, more than we actually import. And it would be just a great thing if the major oil companies in this country would say something very simple like, okay, we realize that this is going to be a problem. As our patriotic duty, we are going to not put all of our oil on the world market and demand world prices for it. We are going to freeze our prices at the level before all this started. We were making billions anyway. This is our patriotic duty. What do you think of that?
Well, I don't see many patriots in the oil industry. I don't think there will be any patriotism whatsoever. First and foremost, most of these corporations are not American corporations per se. And money doesn't know boundaries of national border. So I don't think they give a damn about the United States. They care about one thing. That is the bottom line. Now, oil companies' profits last year, Jack, $174 billion just in the oil sector.
Oh, yeah.
That was their profit.
Yeah.
So it's not like they're destitute. It's not like the oil executives are living out on the corner, and they got some of the sweetest write-offs in all of taxes. That whole depletion thing, man, that is a sweet deal, Jack. But I think that we should, and this isn't my bright idea, I think there could be some sort of, balancing taxation where if they do blow up astronomical profits during this world crunch on oil, well, why can't we, the American people, through taxation, take back some of those mega profits? So either they treat us fairly, or if their profits exceed their historical profits, we get a bigger piece. I mean, hell, a lot of those oil companies barely pay any taxes.
Yep. I know that. I own thousands of shares in one of those major oil companies, and the dividends have exceeded every interest rate. They've exceeded anything I could get at a bank. They're paying out lots of money to their shareholders, and the top ones, of course, get millions.
Well, and stock buybacks. So if you're sitting on lots and lots of cash and you're the CEO, well, CEO often are paid by stock price. And one way to elevate your stock price is to buy back a lot of your stock. So, if you've got 1,000 shares and you buy back 100 shares, well, the 900 remaining shares, they're worth a lot more. You know that, Jack. So that's what they're doing with the record profits. They're reinvesting and driving up their stock price to the benefit of, the top level corporate executives, because that's how they get paid.
Of course.
So I'm not looking for much patriotism here, Jack. I mean, the president can make his threats, but I strongly suspect they'll gouge us.
What about our friends, the Saudis? They could just, by turning on the spigot just a little more, make up for any loss that we have of the Russian oil.
Jack, what makes you think the Saudis are our friends, my friend? You're lucky you don't get bone sawed for an attitude like that.
Yeah,
they're going to do what they're going to do, which is in their society's best interest. I mean, you better look to Europe for some allies here, Jack. We're not finding any in the Middle East, and certainly not amongst the oil companies. At least that's my opinion. But what's that good for? That and 50 cents might buy you a cheap cup of coffee somewhere. Come back with us. Your opinions, they do matter here. We'll take more of them at 844-967-2789. Also, perhaps some sound from Congressman Adam Schiff. I think you'll want to hear some of this. So we'll play it for you, and we'll take your calls. More Devil's Advocates, the Tuesday edition. At least we ain't talking sports.
You know what? I'll tell you something. There's nothing better than a hot sausage, couple 2-3 cold beers, and Devil Radio on the box.
Hey, crazy e-bike Lenny, why do you advertise on Devil Radio?
Greed. It gives me a great return on my advertising investment. Maybe the best of all the other radio stations. Customers come in, they're intimate. They say, I heard you on Devil's Advocate. And that means, when you're as greedy as Crazy Lenny's e-bikes is, you buy more commercials and more come in and more commercials.
You'd be crazy not to advertise your goods or services on Devil Radio.
President Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates, and he would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org.
Breaking news today, Rocker. Crowds of local music fans are gathering outside our studio, and they say they're tailgating for Saturday's Max Inc. radio broadcast live at 6 p.m., and they won't leave until it's over at midnight.
Terry, what are they expecting Saturday night?
Local music, Rocker. Interviews, throwbacks, live music in the Devil's Lair, and Max Inc. Heavy after 10 p.m.
Max Inc. Heavy?
That's right, Rocker. Only local hard rock and metal after 10 during Max Inc. Heavy.
Tune in Saturday at 6 p.m. for Max Inc. Radio on Devil Radio 92.7 FM.
Hey, Dom, is your carpeting starting to have a little bit of a funk to it?
That's a bit of a personal question, Crudy.
No, I know this is really busy time for one of our sponsors, Zero Res of Madison. People want a cleaner, healthier home.
You mean spending the entire quarantine locked in with bacteria and allergens isn't healthy? Who knew?
You want to get it professionally cleaned well before it gets funky. Even if you vacuum frequently,
I vacuum a lot.
You still need to get it professionally cleaned. Schedule your carpet cleaning online at ZeroResMadison.com. Tell them the Devil's
Coronavirus update. I'm Ed Donahue with an AP News Minute. Stocks ended lower. The Dow down 184 points. Jurors are being selected for the trial of 4 men charged with plotting to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. Prosecutors say the men were angry over the Democratic governor's pandemic restrictions.
How often does somebody get charged for attempting or conspiring to kidnap a governor? It just doesn't happen. So because of that significance, it's a huge case.
Former U.S. Attorney Matthew Schneider says several prospective jurors have said they weren't sure they could be impartial.
I understand that some people might not like Governor Whitmer, and I understand that some people might love Governor Whitmer. But the issue is, as the judge said in this case, this isn't a polling place. This is a courthouse. And the issue is, no matter how you feel about the governor, did these defendants violate the law?
Jury selection started today. I'm Ed Donahue.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. Yesterday, Public Health Madison and Dane County issued a drug overdose alert for the county due to ambulance and hospital data showing more than double the number of drug-related overdoses than typical in recent days. The abrupt ending of a contract with a California-based COVID-19 testing company for the Madison Metropolitan School District is now being looked into by the Wisconsin Department of Health Services. The school district claims it is not the deciding entity that ended the contract, but the third-party clinic, COVID Clinic, states the district halted the testing services. It is unknown when the Madison School District will be able to resume testing with a new contractor. The University of Wisconsin system will undergo a system-wide sweep of facilities to ensure all dormitories are up to code after a UW-Milwaukee dorm that lacked carbon monoxide detectors had a gas leak last week that sent 17 students to the hospital. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
The Devil's Advocates. Political commentary from the back of the class.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. That ain't the one I thought it was, Evan. Anyways, trying to be thematic here because I had a direction I wanted to go in. Washington Post, and we'll go towards the phones in just a minute. So, I'm multifaceted. I can go left, I can go right. You never can tell. 844-967-2789. I want to bring you just the conclusion of an opinion piece at the Washington Post. And deserves just a little bit of setup, but I'm just going to conclude with it. Here's the headline. Will Trump's love affair with Putin finally be the breaking point for Republicans? I doubt it. Max Boot is the columnist here, and I'm just going to read from the beginning and then the end. For years, I've been hoping that some outrage would finally turn the Republican Party against Donald Trump. And for years, I've been bitterly disappointed. Trump survived describing Mexican immigrants as criminals, drug dealers, rapists, insulting John McCain for being a POW, mocking a disabled reporter, bragging about grabbing women by their private parts, calling neo-Nazis very fine people, arguably obstructing justice to block a probe of his campaign dealings with Russia, fawning over vicious dictators, lying nonstop, engaging in personal, I don't even know that word. You stump me. I won't use it because I'll mispronounce it. Calling the media the enemy of the people. Yeah, I feel that personally sometimes. If only I were better read and had a broader vocabulary, I might be able to fight back better. Anyways, more from Boots writing. Separating immigrant children from their parents, mismanaging the COVID-19 pandemic, trying to extort Ukraine for helping him politically, refusing to accept his election defeat, inciting a mob attack on the U.S. Capitol, and too many scandals to list. That's the guy. You know his resume. I mean, if we think about it, these have been some challenging years. 2016 forward, worst years of my life. No offense to my wife and kids. It's not them. It's the world we live in now. And in no small part, it's Donald Trump's doing. But it's not just Donald Trump, because Trump does not live in a vacuum. Trump does not, win elections in a vacuum. Trump is the leader of the Republican Party because they want him to be, because they love his ass. Here's the conclusion of this piece, this Max Boost piece. Former Attorney General William Barr, let's not forget, he's got the new book out, One Damn Thing After Another. Former Attorney General William P. Barr is sadly typical. In his new memoir, he admitted that Trump has neither the temperament nor the persuasive powers to provide the kind of positive leadership that is needed. He even said in an interview that Trump was responsible in the broad sense of the word for the January 6th attack on the Capitol. He calls the prospect of another Trump candidacy dismaying. Yet says that if Trump got the nomination in 2024, he will still support him. Because I believe the greatest threat to the country is the progressive agenda being pushed by the Democratic Party. It's inconceivable to me that I wouldn't vote for the Republican nominee. We played that sound yesterday. Samantha Guthrie, NBC News. Bill Barr, the low-rated interview with Bill Barr from Sunday night. So here's the concluding paragraph of Max Boot's column here at the Washington Post. In short, for most Republicans, partisanship trumps, pardon the word, any principle, any devotion to our democracy, because most Republicans hate Democrats more than they hate Russia. Trump likely doesn't have to worry about Putinphilia. Will cost him a significant amount of support with his base, no matter how many civilians Putin slaughters. Because it's a cult of personality. Doesn't matter what he says or does, he changes his tune. He moves the goalpost. You know, one day it's black, the next day it's white. Remember Kim Jong-un and the way he treated the man? Oh, he's going to shock and awe him effectively. And then he's in love with Kim Jong-un. So in love, he took the love letters back to Mar-a-Lago. Didn't flush those down the toilet. So, you know, anyways. Republicans, I have no respect for you if you support Donald Trump at this late hour. I have no respect. And it goes beyond that. I mean, you are complicit at this late hour. And your Putinphilia, it's a little sick, a little twisted. Especially you, Tucker. Talk about that in a minute. Let's get to the phones first. 844-967-2789. My pal Dick from the garage somewhere in Madison, I suspect. Where you at, Dick? Hello, Dick.
Hello. Oh, yeah. You mentioned the Bill Barr Alternative History Tour. That's been fun, too, hasn't it?
Yes, the restore my broken reputation because, you know.
Yeah, let's make sure they don't come for me because I'm as big a crook as he is.
Well, it's beyond being a crook. I mean, I don't know if Barr was in it necessarily for personal financial gain. I mean, that's when I look at a crook, I think guys making money, guy robbing the place, kind of like Donald Trump did.
Yeah, that's.
But Bill Barr, you know, Bill Barr is what is in it for the unitary executive? Is in it for the all powerful? I mean, what a strange thing to throw your reputation and history upon the throne of the unitary executive.
Yeah. Oh, I digress from what I was going to talk about, this oil situation. You go all the way back to the first embargo in 73. And one of our responses was, you know, we'll build some small cars. And part of that was our fault. For small cars they gave us were junk. And then they stood back, the big three, and said, oh, why are we losing the market share to the Japanese cars? Well, they thought it was going to be a short term from what I've read. And it wasn't. And, you know, they gave us throwaway cars, but we just keep chasing our tail the same direction. I mean, the price keeps going up, and we keep buying a bigger fleet, and we go back to something smaller when this happens. But to the oil companies gouging, wouldn't it have been great in World War II if Ford and GM and Chrysler and all the big manufacturers would have said, I don't know about building planes and tanks. I'm not into that. You know, I just can't get on board with it.
It's not going to pad your profit margin enough, Henry?
Right. And there was something, I believe, that Kennedy, way back, Ted Kennedy, didn't he sponsor something called a windfall profits tax that they wanted to, you know, you'll never get that. These oil companies have been doing this to us forever, but yet the Republicans will turn around and put out a bumper sticker. They'll gouge you, but we'll blame Biden.
Yeah.
I can see it coming.
Here is the quick definition of a windfall tax: is a tax levied by governments against certain industries when economic conditions allow those industries to experience above average profits. Well, that certainly seemingly fits the definition there, Dick.
Sure does. And back in World War II, it would have been called war profiteering if they would have decided to try and rip the government off, for all kinds of money to build planes, tanks, and armament. But that was the patriotic thing back then. Now it's kind of like, no big deal.
Well, technically, we're not in the war, so you got to make the money when you can, right?
Well, that's
shock
true.
doctrine,
right? Yeah,
and Dick,
that's true.
Do you recall? Because you know what, I recall when gas cost more than this in the past. Do you recall that?
In 2008.
Yeah, man, yes. We saw this under
Summer
Bush.
2008. I was in Milwaukee for work one day down there, and my workmate and I that day, we were looking at. I don't know, it was approaching in Wisconsin. I'm talking. It was almost $5 down in the Milwaukee area.
Now, 2 years ago, during the pandemic, when the whole world was shut down, gas was awfully cheap.
They bring that up.
What's
and
that?
They brought that up, but you're comparing apples to oranges there. These people that bring that up.
Well, the same people
consumption's way down.
The same people that don't want to give the Biden administration any sort of credit, Dick, for the 7.2 million jobs created on Joe Biden's watch, because those jobs all existed. They were just pre-pandemic jobs, and now they came back. Well, guess what? They came back, right? And we've seen 7.2 million jobs on Joe Biden's watch. But you're not supposed to give Joe Biden any credit for that, but you're supposed to somehow give Trump credit for cheap gas prices during a pandemic.
Yeah, and they came back at better wages also. They don't like bringing that up either. Of course, they don't like anybody to get ahead.
Well, just wait until you reelect the Republicans so Ron Johnson can repeal your Obamacare, Dick. Appreciate you listening in the garage. We'll take more of your phone calls. 844-967-2789. Wisco, I guess we'll take you now. Wisco Paul, how you doing?
Hey, nice call, Dick. A lot of truth there. And good afternoon. Thanks for taking my call, Crudy. Everybody's got big pickup trucks now, and they're not going to handle the gas spike very well. And as far as the Republicans go, it does not matter what Biden does. They're going to hate it. It's been a hard 2 days. I started watching Fox News, and if you watch Hannity or Tucker, it's hard for me to watch. They're in some other universe. I don't know how to explain it, but I guess if I watched that all the time, I'd walk around mad all the time. But no matter what Biden does, it's bad. And as far as I can see, it's all, I don't know, what's it all about on Fox? I don't call it news. It must be about ratings or working people up or whatever. But it's just an amazing.
Well, they hate the Democrats and Joe Biden worse than they hate Russia. And you're absolutely right. We talked about this a couple weeks ago on the show, specifically in regards to Tucker Carlson, Paul. The guy used to be on MSNBC. He's a little tougher on Putin then. And it wasn't just the audience. But you know what? He wasn't very popular. Eventually, his show got canceled. But he goes over to Fox News, and he just basically picks whatever the oppositional position is to Joe Biden. And if that means supporting Putin, so be it, dude. But he's the #1 rated host in cable news.
Well, Crudy, it's amazing. And what they've been able to do is make Democrats the enemy, almost to the point where if you tell somebody you're a Democrat, not everybody, you're against the Republicans, you're the enemy. And
come on, I mean, Trump literally, Wisco Paul, until you've been in a Trump rally and surrounded by a bunch of Trumpsters, and he turns the crowd around on you and calls you the enemy of the people. I mean, you really haven't been demoralized in that sort of fashion, although I think Dom and I mostly just gave the Trumpsters the finger, because we weren't really journalists. We were just, hanging out in the bullpen.
Well, at one time, you could sit down and have a civilized conversation with a Republican. And I think you can with some Republicans. The three amigos there toned it down a little bit, but
yeah, we had many civil conservative callers yesterday. I didn't know what had gotten in the water, Paul. They're all a little short on their Kool-Aid mix.
Yeah, well, but at any rate, you cannot do that with a Trump Republican. It's man, it's just an amazing thing. Actually, it's kind of spooky, to be quite honest. I know up where my brother lives, you don't see many Biden signs, or you didn't, because people were fearful to put them out, and that's the awful truth of the whole thing. Anyway, thanks for taking my call. Go ahead.
No,
Rudy.
appreciate your call, Paul. I was just going to point out how many Trump signs are still out there. I mean, from 2020. Hell, there's Trump signs from 2016. There's Trump 2024 signs, right? But if we put a Joe Biden sign out, we got to be worried that someone's going to vandalize our sign. They're going to come in our yard and tear it out or destroy it or something of the sort. But these Trump signs have been hanging up all around rural Wisconsin. I suspect where you live as well. The Trump signs, they're all over the place, man. And I don't see, and I don't hear a lot of stories about people vandalizing them. You know, we're all tempted, just driving down the highway. You see the big wooden Trump sign, just pull her to the right. But I respect my vehicle more than that. I don't want to damage my vehicle. I don't exactly drive a Ford Dually, getting eight to the gallon. Those guys are spending a lot more time in their garage these days, hanging out with Dick. Come back with us. Hang out with the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Your opinions always matter here. 844-967-2789.
Yeah. 63 Americans a day die by gun suicide. By storing our guns safely, locked, unloaded, and away from ammo, we can give our loved ones a second chance at life. Learn more at endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by Brady and the Ad Council.
Excuse me, pardon?
Getting lost in a city you always wanted to visit.
Pardon, madame. Pardon? S'il vous plaît. Je cherche un restaurant. Merci.
Getting back to the moments we miss starts with getting informed.
This is so cool.
Get the latest info about COVID-19 vaccines at getvaccineanswers.org. It's up to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Treat yourself to some Wisco Home Goods natural lotions or sugar scrub in 2022. I'm Don, one of the owners of this family-owned Midwestern business in Madison, Wisconsin. Our natural hand soaps, lotions, and sugar scrubs offer you the luxury you deserve. Wisco Home Goods self-care products come in a variety of scents you're sure to love. So go on, add a little pampering to your daily routine. Order at wiscohomegoods.com. Natural, healthy, nourishing self-care and more at wiscohomegoods.com.
If doctors, nurses, and grocery store clerks can wear a mask for 10 or 12-hour shifts, you can wear a mask for an hour or less when you go to the store. Do your part. Mask up, America.
Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Hi, folks. This is Kirk Bankstead of the Minocqua Brewing Company, and I'm excited to announce our new beer, AOC IPA. This IPA pays homage to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a champion of the progressive movement. AOC IPA is now available in stores throughout Wisconsin. Check our website, MinocquaBrewingCompany.com, to see which stores in your area are carrying it.
If tomorrow all the things were gone, I'd work for all my life.
The Devil's Advocates, because freedom.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Tuesday edition. Well, my pal Wisco Paul invoked the name of Tucker Carlson. Rhymes with Tucker. Tucker Carlson goes full blame America on Russia's Ukraine invasion. Have you been paying attention? Your head might spin. Aaron Blake at the Washington Post. Tucker Carlson's remarkably Putin-sympathetic view of the war in Ukraine is yet to catch on with large swaths of the conservative movement. But if it doesn't, it won't. It apparently won't be for lack of trying. Carlson lately has tempered his unfortunately timed suggestion that perhaps Vladimir Putin isn't a bad guy. But with that point largely conceded, he now has shifted to assuring that Putin is not the only bad guy. Carlson on Monday drove home an argument that has lingered on the fringes of the conservative movement for some time, that the United States and the West invited this war with their support for admitting Ukraine into NATO, a step that Russia finds unacceptable. To be clear, the idea that NATO expansion into countries such as Ukraine is provocative and might even be a bad idea is not a fringe position. It's long been espoused, dating to prominent establishment foreign policy voices in the 1990s. But Carlson took things a good few conspiratorial steps further, arguing that a push for NATO was deliberately intended to provoke this war. Carlson says it's obvious that getting Ukraine to join NATO was the key to inciting war with Russia. That's a direct quote. He noted that Vice President Harris was sent to Europe as Russia massed troops on Ukraine's border, and that she said, "I appreciate and admire President Vladimir Zelensky's desire to join NATO." Or as Carlson summarized, "Up yours, Vladimir Putin. Go ahead and invade Ukraine." And of course, Vladimir Putin did just that days later. So the invasion was no surprise to the Biden administration. They knew that would happen. That was the point of the exercise. Again, a direct quote of Tucker Carlson on his Foxy News show. Now, as the author writes, Carlson then turned to his favorite rhetorical trick of treating his conspiratorial supposition that the United States wanted this war as established fact as he pivoted to related questions. Why in the world would the United States intentionally seek war with Russia? How could we possibly benefit from that war? Yeah, I mean, that's the logical conclusion to arrive at, Tucker. Rhymes with Tucker. A version of Carlson's efforts to blame the West, and by extension, President Biden, has been around for a while now. In varying versions, conservative provocateur Candace Owens tweeted recently, "We are at fault for Russia's invasion because of NATO expansion." Other Republicans have pointed in that direction as well. Still others, such as Senator Josh Hawley, have not gone that far, but have argued for backing off from NATO expansion to reduce tensions. Surely the consequences of the Ukraine NATO push must be considered, and you need not look far into the past to see studied minds cautioning about a situation much like the one we find ourselves in today. Former Clinton administration Defense Secretary Bill Perry said in 2016 that Putin bore most of the blame for Russia's aggression in Crimea, but that, I have to say, the United States deserves much of the blame for supporting NATO's expansion into Eastern Europe. George Kennan, a former U.S. ambassador to the Soviet Union, called it a tragic mistake after the Senate in 1998 ratified NATO expansion, even as Russia was still picking up the pieces from the dissolution of the Soviet Union. Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan warned at the same time, and he was a Democrat, if you're unaware, "We have no idea what we're getting into." Henry Kissinger and Brzezinski argued relatively recently that Ukraine should not join military alliances, instead stick with the Finland-esque approach of remaining neutral while cooperating with the West in other ways. But there are a few problems with the attempt to shoehorn this valid concern into the idea that the Biden administration is to blame or even deliberately fomented war. One is that Putin has made it clear that this isn't just or even necessarily primarily about NATO. Supporters of this view often point towards Putin's February 21 speech laying out his justifications, which included NATO. But in that speech, Putin labeled Ukraine an illegitimate country on land that he views as rightfully Russian territory. He echoed that in 2008 talks with W. Putin's aggression in Georgia in 2008 and Crimea in 2014 coincided with moves to bring Georgia and Ukraine into the Western fold. But there's much more that undergirds this case for war. The other is that supporting Ukraine's right to pursue membership in NATO has consistently been U.S. policy. Carlson isolated Harris's visit to the Munich Security Conference, but this has been a position across multiple administrations of both parties. However well advised that policy was, it was a longstanding policy, And to shelve it in the face of Russian aggression would be, in the truest sense, capitulation. Even if you believed it might be, we might have averted this war, what message would it send about Russia's ability to throw its weight around? Its massing of troops on Ukraine's border would have earned an immediate payoff, even if Harris had merely declined to restate U.S. support for Ukraine's right to pursue NATO membership. That would have been a telling omission. And beyond that, there's the fact that this isn't just U.S. policy. Ukrainians now support their country's membership in NATO by a significant margin. If anyone is big on self-determination, it would seem to be Carlson. And yet, that's curiously missing from his argument. Carlson, for what it's worth, oversimplified, Harrison's statement is having encouraged Ukraine to become a member of NATO. As with past administrations, she described U.S. policy as supporting Ukraine's desire to join NATO, a key nuance diplomatically. And in January, former Trump and Bush administration Russia expert Fiona Hill offered a worthwhile and nuanced view on this. Here's what she wrote in the New York Times. To be sure, Russia does have some legitimate security concerns, and European security arrangements could certainly do with fresh thinking and refurbishment after 30 years. But a further Russian invasion of Ukraine and Ukraine's dismemberment, neutralization cannot be an issue for U.S.-Russian negotiations, nor a line item in European security. Ultimately, the United States needs to show Mr. Putin that he will face global resistance, and Mr. Putin's aggression will put Russia's political and economic leadership at risk far beyond Europe. Yet negotiating over NATO in the face of Russian aggression, whether explicitly, now this is Aaron Blake's writing, whether explicitly or by scaling back the U.S. public commitment to the allegiance rights to determine its membership, is effectively what Carlson suggests should have been done. It's one thing to argue this policy has been a bad one. It's another to cast Harris's restating of a longstanding U.S. policy as some kind of novel provocation, even a deliberate one with an intended consequence. But there must be a way to blame the Biden administration for this situation, apparently, even if it means shifting the blame away from Putin and implicitly arguing for his appeasement. So that catches you up with what Tucker's been talking about over on the Foxy News. Glad you're listening to this fine product. Some say greatest radio show ever. Not yet on cable TV. Come back. Hour 2 is next. Join us on the phones. 844-96-PARTY.
We all know Wisconsin's favorite cocktail. That's right, the Bloody Mary. And Wisconsin bar and restaurants are the best at it. And now it's time for a standoff. Who makes the best Bloody Mary? Find out who wins at Downdren's first annual Bloody Mary Fest on March 26th from 11 to 2 p.m. Taste Bloody Marys from up to 25 local bars and restaurants. And do it with your own custom tasting glass. It's Downdren's first annual Bloody Mary Fest. Enjoy music and purchase from local food trucks. March 26th, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. To purchase tickets and to find out more, go to downdrensdistilling.com. You must be 21. Drink responsibly.
This is Rocker, and I'm sitting here on the patio at Salvatore's Tomato Pies, freezing my butt off. So I'm headed next door to the Dark Horse Art Bar for a Rocker Rye whiskey to warm me up. It's a high rye with just a touch of malted barley. It's yummy. Find Rocker Spirits at Festival Foods on East Wash and Woodman's grocery stores. You must be 21. Please drink responsibly.
You are listening to WTTN 1580 AM Columbus, W224 EG Madison, always streaming on the Devil Radio app.
AP News. I'm Ed Donahue. President Biden says the U.S. is targeting the main artery of the Russian economy.
We're banning all imports of Russian oil and gas and energy.
The president calls it a powerful blow to Vladimir Putin's war machine. The AP Sagar Magani reports it will mean even higher prices for gas.
They've already hit the highest level ever recorded, an average of $4.17 a gallon. Oil sold for about $90 a barrel a month ago. Now it's around $130. Energy analysts warn it could hit $200, a trend that may send U.S. gas prices past $5 a gallon.
McDonald's is temporarily closing all of its 850 restaurants in Russia. The Russian military is offering again to provide humanitarian corridors for civilians to leave 5 cities in Ukraine after several previous attempts to establish safe exits failed. Daria Garakovskas left Kyiv and is in Poland. She says Russia has ruined her life.
We've left again everything. Some bags, children, no husbands, no help, and no future.
Poland says it will give all of its MiG-29 fighter jets to the U.S., apparently agreeing to the arrangement that would allow them to be used by Ukraine's military. CIA Director Bill Burns said on Capitol Hill, Vladimir Putin underestimated Ukraine, and this is personal.
He's created a system in which his own circle of advisors is narrower and narrower. COVID has made that even narrower. And it's a system in which it's not proven career enhancing for people to question or challenge his judgment.
Florida's Republican-dominated legislature passed a bill to forbid instruction on sexual orientation and gender identity in kindergarten through 3rd grade. Critics call the bill "Don't Say Gay." Teachers have hit the picket lines at public schools across Minneapolis. The Dow finished down 164 points. This is AP News.
I'm Joel Clark, a SelectQuote agent, with a true story that could save you hundreds of dollars a year. A woman named Linda just called. Her husband, Ray, has a group life insurance policy, but is changing jobs and he can't take it with him. Well, I went to work and found Ray, who's 40 and takes medication to control his high blood pressure, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for only $19 a month. That's way more coverage for a lot less than what he was paying. If SelectQuote didn't shop for your life insurance, you're probably paying too much.
For your free quote and to find out how much you can save, call 1-800-597-2010. That's 1-800-597-2010. 1-800-597-2010. Or go to selectquote.com. Since 1985, we shop, you save.
Get full details on the example policies at selectquote.com/commercials. Your premium could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
Here's how you get them. If they bring a beer, you bring an old-fashioned. If they bring cheese curds, you bring a casserole. That's how you make friends. That's the Wisconsin way. That's Devil Radio.
Over the past 30 years, Chad's Design Build has grown and improved how we do things, but we've never lost sight of our commitment to be a great place to work, focused on quality renovations for outstanding clients. Paying a living wage and providing excellent benefits to promote work-life balance does in fact attract outstanding people, which helps to explain our stellar reputation. Thank you, Madison, for 30 amazing years, building a better world one remodeled home at a time. This is Chad Spate for Chad's Design Build.
An industry that started in America should stay in America. At Ignite Glass and Gifts, we strive to offer tons of American-made products, most of which we create by hand in our glass blowing shop. You'll know your product will have thicker, longer-lasting glass, and it's artistically made right here at home. Madison's favorite for glass gifts and vape. Ignite Glass and Gifts, Monona Drive, Williamson Street, and Odana Road. Keep it American-made at Ignite.
It's the Mad City Bridal Expo, Sunday, March 27th at the Monona Terrace in Madison. Imagine planning your wedding in just one day. Pre-register for free tickets at the MadCityBridalExpo.com and receive a $200 gift card. Tickets also available at the door for just $10. Enjoy a fashion show by David's Bridal. Read all the details at MadCityBridalExpo.com and like them on Facebook. It's the Mad City Bridal Expo, Sunday, March 27th at the Monona Terrace in Madison. Your ring is just the beginning.
Cut through the bullshit. Get the information the deep state doesn't want you to know. Only on Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. Governor Tony Evers announced Monday that he has signed legislation that will allow restaurant owners that receive federal COVID-19 relief grants to exempt the funds from state income and franchise taxes. The governor signed the legislation to provide further relief for one of the industries that has suffered the worst effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. A fiscal estimate from the state believes the plan will save Wisconsin restaurant owners more than $27 million. On Monday, Milwaukee County District Attorney John Chisholm announced no charges will be filed against 2 members of the Wisconsin Elections Commission that reside in Milwaukee County due to lack of evidence a crime was committed in their 2020 guidance votes. Sunny skies in the forecast today with winds up to 15 miles an hour and a high today of 39 degrees. Partly cloudy skies rolling in throughout the evening with light winds and an overnight low of 23 degrees. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Devil Radio programming is produced live in the Solidarity Realty Studios. Find them at solidarityrealty.com. Solidarity Realty. There is an alternative.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the Devil Radio Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Here is your host, Mike Crute.
Welcome back. Hour 2 of the Tuesday edition of the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. I got Vegas Joe Zepecki joining me in about half an hour at the bottom of the hour. So I hope you stick around for Joe. Might do a little sports talk at that point. Aaron Rodgers signed a big deal. Devontae Adams got tagged, meaning he will remain a Packer as well. So it's, at least one more dance happening in Green Bay this year. All in. So excited about that. Less excited about some of the headlines here in the great state of Wisconsin. Gableman's contract apparently formally has been extended. And I would question why. Why are we extending a contract with this conspiracy theorist who already had a foregone conclusion before he did the very partisan, quote unquote investigation? Well, maybe I answered my own question. Of course, it's the red herring that keeps on giving. Go out there and cast enough shade and maybe some of it will stick. And then, when we try to steal the next election, it won't hurt so bad. Patrick Marley reporting at the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, Assembly Speaker Robin Voss reached a new agreement with attorney Michael Gableman on Tuesday. Marley leaves out the corrupted former Supreme Court Justice descriptor. I think it's appropriate here. Just hours before a judge said Gableman's records offered little sign he had conducted a thorough review of the 2020 election. Oh, wait till you hear from Judge Remington. Let's not forget there was this open records case. It's still open. And the judge doesn't have much good to say about the former Supreme Court Justice. Now, Voss, a Rochester Republican, hired Gableman as special counsel last summer and gave him a taxpayer-funded budget of $676,000. Dane County Circuit Judge Frank Remington said today he would release hundreds of pages of records related to Gableman's work, but said they showed little sign of an investigation. That's what the judge is saying. Here is his direct quote. I believe that it's for every man now to examine these documents, Remington said from the bench. And I believe when done so, he will come to the conclusion that this has been much to do about nothing, that these documents do not support the argument that there has been an investigation, much less the conclusions that have been made by the Office of the Special Counsel. So the judge who has reviewed the Gableman documents said the guy didn't even do an investigation. And he's coming up with these outlandish conclusions that are clearly not supported by what I've reviewed. Just Scrudy's take on it. Remington made his comments in response to an open records lawsuit filed by the liberal group American Oversight. Remington last week ruled Voss and Gableman had violated the law by keeping records from the group, and on Tuesday, he ruled those documents should be quickly released. Gableman attorney James Bopp said he would likely appeal the ruling, because he's just using taxpayer dollars. He's got the big old budget and, fat new contract. Why not drag this out for months longer? At issue are hundreds of pages of records maintained by Gableman. Remington called them underwhelming. Gableman issued a report last week that he maintained showed numerous problems with how the elections were conducted. Is that what it did? The report reiterated arguments Republicans have been making for months about voting in nursing homes and grants Wisconsin cities received to run their elections that were funded by Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg. Hence the derisive Zuckerberg Five, as Gableman called them. Also last week, Gableman argued legislators should consider trying to revoke the state's 10 electoral votes for Joe Biden. Oh, yeah, that was a sweet conclusion. Is that supported? Judge Remington says, you're a crackpot, basically, but legal scholars say it's legally impossible. Well, that didn't stop the former Wisconsin Supreme Court justice from rolling it out as a bright idea. Now, recounts and court rulings have confirmed Biden beat Donald Trump in Wisconsin. You don't say. A legislative audit and a review by a conservative group, that's the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, found no signs of significant voter fraud. Voss hired Gableman in June and agreed to pay him $11,000 a month. The contract expired at the end of December, but Gableman has continued to receive payments. Do you think your employer would do that? If your contract ran out at the end of the year? I don't know about you. I know we don't have a formal contract, you and I haven't, but if yours is up, I'm done paying you, man. On Tuesday, they both signed an amended contract, Bob said during Tuesday's hearing. But Bob did not describe the terms of the contract. Vox spokesperson Angela Joyce did not respond to a request for a copy of the contract. So, we got to take their word for it. Democrats in the state Senate sought to launch an audit Tuesday of Gableman's office, but Republicans who control the chamber rejected the effort. No transparency for you, Dems. In a sign of some GOP discomfort with Gableman's work, 3 Republicans, Senator Catherine Bernier of Lake Holly, Dale Coenga of Brookfield, and Jerry Petrowski of Marathon, joined the Democrats in the vote to advance the audit. So you got 3 Republicans breaking away from the Senate caucus. It's kind of a big deal. And the judge ordered the release of records. Remington conducted Tuesday's hearing to determine whether to order the release of records or keep them sealed, while Gableman pursued an appeal. He said he would release the records, but they did not immediately become available Tuesday. There's not much to the records, Remington said, raising questions about what Gableman and his team have been doing for more than 8 months. They're just getting paid, baby, just getting paid. It's a lot of work putting together all that shade. Got to get well paid for that. Election officials, Democrats, and some Republicans have called Gableman's work a sham. Yeah, put me on that list. And have undermined confidence in the election. Well, that was his intent. Gableman's backers have rallied behind him, saying his reports showed a need to overhaul how elections are run in Wisconsin. Gableman has called for limiting early voting and mail voting, with not a scintilla of evidence to prove that anything happened or there's any bad stuff. But, he said it. If Remington's rulings withstand appeals, the state will likely have to pay thousands of dollars. The state will pay thousands of dollars to American Oversight to cover the group's legal cost. In addition, the assembly, Voss and Gableman would have to pay a combined $3,000 in penalties. That'd take it off the 11 G's he makes monthly on the taxpayers, with or without contract. Remington did not understand why the public release of such documents would in any way hurt Gableman's review of the 2020 election. Remington found in last week's ruling that many of the records at issue were mundane and said there should be no dispute over whether they should be made public. The documents include emails from Mike Lindell, the MyPillow executive who has promoted outlandish false theories about the election, Ron Hauer, who has looked into voting at nursing homes for both Gableman and the Thomas More Society Armistead Project, and Harry Waite, who is involved with the conservative group Honest, Open, Transparent Government. Also included is what appears to be, I'm not even sure what that is. Also included appears to be a name, to name a few, the Wisconsin Elections Commission, Mark Zuckerberg, the star of a 1987 film Predator, Arnold Schwarzenegger, apparently just a random number of assembled things they're ranting against. Sorry, I don't quite understand the context here. The documents also include an email in which Gableman's office shared its password for a Dropbox.com account, Remington wrote. No statute prohibits the release of passwords. The public has no interest in keeping its government's irresponsible digital security a secret. Apparently, you shouldn't, save or share the Dropbox password via email. Kind of exposes it. American Oversight has filed 2 other open records lawsuits because of the documents that have been withheld from it. And they're right to do so. Apparently, according to the judge in this case. So anyways, Gableman's got a new contract. The investigation continues. How exciting. What great news. Did you hear about the one they've been conducting, the cyber audit they've been conducting in Michigan? You know, they actually reached conclusion on that audit and apparently have upheld the results of Michigan's last election. Here is just a little bit Raw Stories coverage. Audit quashes conspiracy theories about widespread election fraud in Michigan. Well, that's because you don't have a Gableman on the case there. Michigan advanced the actual source of this story. The Michigan Office of the Auditor General debunked conspiracy theories about widespread election fraud, concluding in a report released Friday, that's last Friday, that local and state officials conducted accurate audits of the election that found little to no irregularities. Again, we're talking about the state of Michigan, where apparently they don't have a special prosecutor, digging deep. The office found no evidence of fraud and said the post-election audits were sufficient, with some exceptions, contradicting repeated claims by former President Donald Trump and his loyalists who have insisted Joe Biden stole the election. Biden defeated Trump in Michigan by more than 154,000 votes. Here's a statement from the report. By confirming the effectiveness of the most comprehensive post-election audit in state history, the Auditor General confirmed what has been demonstrated time and time again. Michigan's 2020 election was secure, and the outcome accurately reflects the will of the voters. That's according to Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson of Michigan. The auditors recognize the tremendous work of the Michigan Bureau of Elections and local elections officials did to carry out more than 250 successful post-election audits by rating the Bureau's performance perhaps better than ever. Well, that's going to kill a lot of conspiracy theories. One of the most pervasive conspiracy theories was that numerous votes were cast on behalf of dead people. By comparing voting records with public health records, the office found that about 1,600 votes of the total ballots were cast by people who were dead as of election day, but in most cases, the people voted absentee before they died. Well, don't tell that to Gableman. The report also found 99.9% of the votes were not duplicates and were within acceptable age parameters. More Devils, we'll be back.
If you came across someone struggling with hunger, how would you recognize them?
By their clothes,
their age,
the way they speak.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America, 200 Food Banks Strong, and the Ad Council.
I may never have met you. We don't go way back. Maybe we wouldn't even be friends if we did. But when you wear a mask, you have my respect. Because your mask doesn't protect you. It protects me. I wear my mask to protect you. Mask up, America.
Brought to you by the Ad Council.
President Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates. He would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at P4PPC.org.
is dedication.
People ask, how your children learn how to ride a bike and you didn't? I just created an environment where they taught themselves, and all I had to do was be there.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Spruce up your home with soy candles from Wisco Home Goods. I'm Don, one of the owners of this family-owned Midwestern business in Madison, Wisconsin. Our candles are 100% sustainable and come in a variety of unique blends and scents. Did you know our candle jars are also double old-fashioned glasses? That's right, buy a candle and you get a free cocktail glass. Check out our blog at wiscohomegoods.com/blog for more information. That's wiscohomegoods.com/blog.
I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for those meddling devil's advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Going to be joined by a fine co-devil soon. He is Vegas Joe Zepecki, a fine Dem strategist from the great state of Wisconsin. Until Joe gets here, I want to give you a little update on what my senator, U.S. Senator Ron Johnson's been up to today. He's been hanging out with Ted Cruz, big buddies, Ron and Ted. And apparently they've been hanging out with the Freedom Convoy people. Made a very special accommodation for them down at the Senate today. And got a little coverage here from the Daily Mail. Thought I'd share it with you people. You fine people listening on the radio. People's Convoy leaders met with legislators on Capitol Hill in an effort to put an end to the pandemic era mandates and what protesters claim to be government overreach. This is wrong, and I can see without having to worry about science. Organizer Brian Blaze told Senators Ted Cruz of Texas and Rojo of Wisconsin during Tuesday's meeting. It is time to listen to the people. It is time that the government is reminded they work for us. It's time that a new renaissance period, a renaissance of freedom. So that according to the convoy leader, the convoy, which is now larger than ever after three separate truck cavalcades, united as one convoy Monday night, continued its effort to impede traffic by circling the 64-mile Beltway Tuesday. Now, the Beltway is the big highway that goes around D.C., and there's daily traffic of approximately 500,000 cars on the Beltway. So if you think these truckers are really, really changing the flow of traffic, you'd be wrong. But let me read on. But it comes, this little convoy, as most COVID rules are relaxed and lifted altogether, with the convoy now dramatically expanding its demands to lawmakers in an attempt to try and gather the same momentum as its Canadian predecessor. The People's Convoy has come together and created a community. We are a massive community, Bray said during the meeting. We're going to keep looping the Beltway until we're heard. We're not going anywhere. Just looping Beltway, burning gas, making a point. Senator Cruz applauded the convoy organizers for their efforts, saying, what y'all are doing is incredibly important. One of the things COVID has done is revealed the truth, the lawmaker said, and the truth is revealed that a lot of politicians who are petty tyrants, like you, Ted Cruz. Here's the rest of his quote. There are a lot of big tech executives who are happy to censor and silence. Now, Rojo echoed the sentiment, hailing the leaders as patriots. They have been peacefully fighting for their freedoms as Americans should. They're fighting for freedom, and they're going to continue to fight. Rojo's so proud of the truckers, the convoy truckers. Cruz also accused the corporate media of trying to paint the convoy as a bunch of loons. No, they do that just fine on their own because they want to make decisions for their own lives and their own family instead of Americans exercising their constitutional rights. Now, here's again a quote. The media desperately wants to portray people exercising First Amendment rights and speaking out as feverish, as violent criminals. They're not violent, he argued. There's nothing feverish about speaking up for freedom, and the corporate media doesn't want people to hear that. Cruz added, there's a fever in Washington. Cruz has got a fever for a flavor of the Pringles, something like that. The senator added, there's a fever in Washington, but it's a fever of authoritarian politicians trying to strip away people's rights. Oh, that's got to be the case. Around 3,000 vehicles joined forces Tuesday for a circuit of the sections of Interstate 495 that encircled the U.S. Capitol. The protest swelled as its leaders outlined an expanded list of demands. We're making up new demands as we go here, folks, and received recognition from one of America's best-known conservative lawmakers. Are they talking about Cruz or Rojo? The truckers told thedailybeast.com that their key demands also include reopening the Keystone Pipeline, ended big tech censorship. I mean, just a random grab bag of grievances here. Ensuring rights for Capitol riot protesters, prisoners as they're described here, holding vaccine manufacturers liable for damages, making political ideology a protected class, like freedom of religion. Oh, that's a new one. And reaffirming the Bill of Rights. Brasse, again, he's the leader, while speaking with legislators, called upon all Americans and truckers worldwide to join in their protest for freedom. I encourage every trucker from around the world to stand up. This isn't a right or a left issue. It's a people's issue. It's a time that the people stand up. This is for you. You should be a part of this. Now, the 37-year-old trucker from Ohio also hit back at claims that the People's Convoy was anti-vaccine and seeking to cause chaos in the capital city. We're not anti-vaxxers. We're pro-choice. He said, ironically, many of the politicians who refuse to understand where we're coming from or don't want to meet with us, they're out of touch with who Americans really are. Oh, you're a real American. You and Rojo and Ted Cruz. The convoy organizer noted that the protesters are cooperating with authorities and doing everything we can to limit the impact of American people's commute to and from work by publicly announcing their plans the night their highway drive. I didn't write it. We have a First Amendment right to exercise where we stand and what we want. That's probably the most peaceful protest to come through DC area in a long time. Well, certainly compared to the January 6th protest. We stick to our word. The trucker promised that the People's Convoy would keep protesting and circling DC until they achieve their goals. He called the meeting with Cruz and Johnson a win. Oh, that's a big win, but alleged there is still more work to be done. Now, I've met both men, together or separately. They're not that impressive. I got to tell you, sir. I got what I was hoping for. I got two respectable members of the Senate. That is definitely a very liberal use of the term respectable. I got two respectable members of the Senate here, and I got all the media to come in this room and start covering. That's a win for me. That's a win for the People's Convoy. Later today, we have more meetings, and tomorrow's a new day, and the convoy is going to keep rolling around the Beltway until we achieve what our goals are. Or we'll change our goals, or whatever. We're kind of loon balls. But Rojo and Ted Cruz, happy to give them a platform. Admire them as patriots. Since these guys have been convoying, here in the state of Wisconsin, we've lowered all our mask mandates. Freedom! Come back. My buddy, Vegas Joe Zepecki, Co-Devils with me next. You on the phones perhaps as well.
Devil Radio, your fix for progressive talk radio from Fitchburg to DeForest, always streaming at DARNWI.com.
Here on Devil Radio, the happy hour is always the happiest hour of the day. If you want to end your day on a high note, join the happy hour at the All Dark Horse Art Bar, 756 East Washington Ave, right next to Salvatore's Tomato Pies. Happy hours now Tuesday through Saturday, 4 to 6 p.m. with drink and wine specials and $1 slices, and always free parking in our building. The Dark Horse Art Bar. Enjoy this unique, funky, cool space. Surround yourself with art with featured local, regional, and national artists. New shows each month.
I'm sick and tired of the pro-choice versus pro-life argument. It's past time we get honest with each other. Pro-choice or forced birth. That's what we will have if we take away the ability of women to make choices for their own bodies, their own futures. Send me to the U.S. Senate and I will vote to codify Roe v. Wade. I will vote for the autonomy of women. You can find my position on all the issues at PekarskyForWisconsin.com and follow the campaign on Facebook and Twitter. This ad paid for by Pekarsky for Wisconsin.
This is Rocker, and I'm sitting here on the patio at Salvatore's Tomato Pies, freezing my butt off. So I'm headed next door to the Dark Horse Art Bar for a Rocker Rye whiskey to warm me up. It's a rye with just a touch of malted barley. It's yummy. Find Rocker Spirits at Festival Foods on East Wash and Woodman's grocery stores. You must be 21. Please drink responsibly.
Hey, Dom, how many palindromes can you name in 30 seconds?
Race car, mom, dad, reefer, kayak, level. Did I say mom already?
You're for one really important one.
Zero res.
Not only is it the coolest palindrome ever, it's also our favorite.
Right, I remember. Why is that again?
They advertise with us.
Zero res, my favorite palindrome.
And carpet cleaner.
Get
the best carpet cleaning ever. Scheduled.
How you doing today?
Online. It's
good. Can you hear me okay?
Sure can.
Devil's Advocate.
Sure can. Crystal clear, as they say.
Can you hear me, Joe?
Now I can.
No, you're all Packer garbed.
Every day is a great day to be a Packer fan.
Hey, play Macklemore dropping tags if we have it. The radio edit. Radio edit only. See what Rojo was doing this morning? Meet with the trucker convoy.
That's right. And unable to answer what exactly they're protesting.
Oh,
what changed it.
They got pages full of grievances now. It's not just about anti-vaccines. It's about pro-choice. He said unironically. All right, Joe, I'll talk to you on the radio here in a
For
second.
Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. During his State of the State address last month, Governor Tony Evers called for a special session of the legislature to discuss proposals that Wisconsin lawmakers could do right now with the state's unprecedented $3.8 billion surplus to assist Wisconsinites struggling amid rising prices and with the COVID-19 pandemic. Republican State Senate Majority Leader Devin LeMahieu indicated that the state Senate plans to gavel in and gavel out of that special session today. Rather than even discuss returning any of the surplus back to Wisconsin taxpayers, the Republican-led state Senate plans to pass a proposal for a constitutional amendment that would give the legislature oversight of spending federal relief dollars and a piece of legislation that would be the next step in closing Lincoln Hills and Copper Lake juvenile facilities. Republicans in the state Senate also plan to kill a proposal that would allow election clerks to begin counting absentee ballots before Election Day. You're listening to Devil Radio.
Hey, Macklemore, can we go thrift shopping?
What?
Charged, never convicted. The Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Tuesday edition. And I've been joined by a fine guest, all clad in his Packers garb. He is Vegas Joe Zepecki. Joe, how you doing, man?
I'm great. Every day, any day is a great day to be a Green Bay Packer fan. I got to be honest, I completely forgot that it was decision day for Mr. Rogers when I put this on. And, you know, I'm just a Packer fan, man.
Do you know that Aaron Rodgers is the most hated football player in the NFL right now? And it's not even close. Do you know that, man?
The Green Bay Packers are the most beloved franchise in American football, as they should be. Power to the people. That's what I say.
Well, do you think if we weren't Green Bay Packer fans, do you think we'd have the same sort of love and adoration for Aaron Rodgers? I mean, A-Rod he misled us about his immunization status, his vaccination status, and then he got the COVID toe and he keeps losing in the playoffs, Joe. You know, maybe we should be the haters.
I think we should move on to something less controversial than the Green Bay Packers and our quarterback.
Okay, man, using the 50-cent words on me. Well, let me tell you, buddy, I read a little article about U.S. Senator Ron Johnson today at thehill.com. And who got quoted? But lo and behold, Vegas Joe Zepecki. Yeah. They were talking about Rojo's efforts to win re-election. You know, will he return for 2023 like the Aaron Rodgers and the Packers? See how I transition like that?
And it sounds like Republicans are pretty nervous about his ability to hold it. That's the genesis of that story that I took away from it.
Well, Joe, maybe it's the new Marquette University polling. What's his approval rating? Somewhere in the mid-30s right about now. Rojo, we reference. I mean, he is perhaps the most vulnerable Republican on the ticket this year in the U.S. Senate. Joe, that's why they're quoting a fine dim strategist like you from Wisconsin, because it's going to be a hell of a re-election battle for Ron. And Ron, I don't know if he means to do this, but everything from let's repeal Obamacare to let's go meet the freedom truckers. I mean, Ron's trying harder each and every day to kind of out-Trump Trump, don't you think, in some twisted way?
I mean, listen, Senator Johnson has long been on, the sort of targeted races list. Any state that delivered 10 electoral votes or, its electoral votes for President Biden that has an incumbent Republican, that's sort of automatically at the top of the list. Then you take into account all of the controversial statements that Senator Johnson has made, how wrong he is on the issues, and how out of step he is with the people of Wisconsin. It's sort of a perfect storm to make this the most hotly contested contest in the country. And, what I keep coming back to is, and I'm almost afraid to say this, but the smartest thing he could do is just be quiet. Just stop talking. Because right now the political environment is not great for Democrats. I think it's going to get better. But, as a Republican running in a year that could be really good for Republicans, I think he would be better off just staying quiet. He can't help himself, though. And so every time he opens his mouth, it seems, he's just reminding voters how out of touch he is. Calling after almost 12 years. This March 23rd will be 12 years to the day since the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, was signed into law. More than 100 attempts by Republicans to repeal it, multiple challenges in the Supreme Court. It is the law of the land. It is working. It is not perfect. There is much that needs to be done when it comes to lowering costs and expanding access to healthcare. But the Republicans have proven they're not good actors when it comes to this. If they were, they would have come to the table to fix this years ago. Instead, Senator Johnson is leading the charge to once again repeal Obamacare and strip away everything that goes with it.
Well, more as a position of consistency. We Republicans should show you what we stand for, and it's mostly bad stuff, Joe. Now, Rick Scott was sort of villainized for his party platform, his 11 bullet points. And Rojo basically said, well, I might disagree on the fringes, but yeah, I'm down for all this bad stuff. Now, Mitch McConnell had effectively said, we're not telling you what our agenda is. Elect us and then you'll see. Well, between Rojo and Rick Scott, they are laying out what the Republican agenda is. And Joe, if it's repeal Obamacare, and let's not forget, Rojo voted for the repeal of Obamacare, and there was no replacement plan, Joe, but he was just fine with that. And his plan now is what? Let's come up with the better version.
I mean, that's the problem, right? Is it's been 12 years, and in those 12 years, we have not seen a Republican plan that comes anywhere close to getting the same amount of people coverage and making coverage more affordable. They don't have an idea of what to do. They just remain obsessed with undoing it because it's a historic landmark achievement for President Obama. And, listen, on issue after issue, what Republicans are showing is that they're the party of the aggrieved, and they have grievances, but they don't have any solutions, right? They want to complain about inflation. They don't have any ideas about how to address rising costs. They don't have any ideas for ways to lower costs for average Americans. Everything comes down to, let's just cut taxes for those at the top and hope that everything else works its way out. That's not a winning agenda. And, it's easy to criticize. It's easy to complain. It's a complicated world. But until they come to the table with, I'd love to see a more conservative alternative to Obamacare, which was in large part modeled after, a plan that the Heritage Foundation signed off on. They don't have it. They don't have ideas. Remember the 2020 Republican National Convention? For the first time ever, a major national party said, we're not going to have a platform. We're not going to tell you what we stand for or what we want to do. Now McConnell is saying, as you pointed out, we don't want to unveil our agenda for what we will do if we take back Congress. Something doesn't compute here And it's on all of us and all of your listeners to make sure that people understand that, because there are a lot of Republicans in this state, and a lot of them mean really well, because they're voting Republican because their parents voted Republican, and that's how they identify, and that's great. But being a Republican right now doesn't stand for anything when the elected officials refuse to tell you what they're going to do, when they refuse to debate proposals made in good faith by, say, Governor Tony Evers, and they decide we're going to gavel in and gavel out rather than debate. They don't have any ideas. They don't want to discuss the ideas that Democrats are putting forward. They're a party that is fundamentally out of ideas right now.
Folks, you are listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Got a fine guest. He brings all the brightest ideas. He is big as Joe Zepecki. Joe, were you surprised at all to see retired Lieutenant Colonel Vindeman from the first impeachment trial single out U.S. Senator Ron Johnson by name as having blood on his hands? Effectively, the cover fire he had given Donald Trump over the Ukraine scandal, the 2 votes to acquit. Effectively, Vindeman says, you got blood on your hands in regards to this aggression in the Ukraine. Of course, Ron wants to blame it all on Biden's weakness, but, were you surprised to see Vindeman single out Rojo?
I was. This is a decorated veteran of the American Armed Forces. As I understand it, still has shrapnel in his body from a roadside bomb in a IED explosion in Iraq, who worked his way to the National Security Council. This is a responsible, sober-minded, leader, and frankly, like sort of a role model for my generation. And for him to, by name, criticize a United States senator in that way was surprising to me. This is not a guy who's like a partisan bomb thrower. And so we have to take it seriously and look at what's at stake. I don't know 1% as much about Ukraine as Colonel Vindman does. Neither do you, right? And so when he says it, you have to pay attention. Go back and read the story from Bill Glauber in the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. Clearly Colonel Vindman was with Senator Johnson in Ukraine. He was on the National Security Council when President Trump was extorting President Zelensky and trying to withhold crucial, weapon systems that the American Congress had said we need to supply to the Ukrainians. Vindman was there. We weren't, and so we should take everything he says seriously.
And there was some prior reporting about this. I think it was the Wall Street Journal. And effectively it was, the connection of the investigation of Joe Biden and the trade-off, that's what Trump wanted from Zelensky. And he said, well, if he connected those two things, though, that would be bad. Well, he did connect those things. We all know he connected those things. Vindeman effectively calling Rojo out because he was there. He was there in the Ukraine. He was at Zelensky's inauguration. He knows. John Bolton reportedly said that was the very time, the return trip from the Zelensky inauguration, and Rojo was there and Bolton was in the room, and he said that is the point where Trump connected this quid pro quo, the armaments for the dirt on Joe Biden. Now, Rojo, when he came on our show the day after he voted to acquit Donald Trump, said, oh, no, it didn't happen like that. But it kind of did, Joe. It kind of did. Is this something that bears rehashing, or does Rojo's constant, sticking his foot in his mouth, the hoof and mouth disease that he apparently is suffering from so mightily? I mean, should we just let him sink on his current weight, or should we remind the American people about his involvement all the way back to the beginning of the perfect phone call?
I think the record from the people who were there, like Colonel Vindman, like we learned in the impeachment trial, is all there. If we weren't involved, as you and I weren't, we should refrain. I'm growing a little weary of these criticisms of Senator Johnson. Oh, he was in Russia on the 4th of July. That doesn't mean anything. United States senators go abroad to foster stronger relationships with our enemies and our friends. So, liberals, let's knock it off there. There is enough in Senator Johnson's voting record and his ideas when it comes to our domestic politics to retire him this November. Full stop. He voted for a tax cut that was a massive giveaway to wealthy corporate interests. He carved out a special loophole for businesses like his that he personally profited from. He has opposed raising the minimum wage. He is for taking away access to healthcare through Obamacare. Those things right there, we know because he's voted on them. The record is clear. I think we should focus on that. There is a lot left in terms of what's going to happen in Ukraine, and we should all be doing everything we can to support the people of Ukraine, whether that means, biting our tongue and paying a few extra cents at the gas pump, whether that means giving donations to aid groups. There's a refugee crisis, the likes of which Europe has never seen in modern times, going on right now. We need to pay close attention to this. We can't look away. And frankly, what's happening in Europe is far more important than one U.S. senator shooting his mouth off when it comes to what did or did happen, or what he thinks happened, when we know that people like Colonel Vindman, who were in those rooms, have a different take on it.
Joe, do you have any take on the Democratic opponents? Obviously, there's like some approaching a dozen Dems that want to be the opponent to Ron Johnson. Right now, the polling would seem to indicate Mandela Barnes is the front runner. Alex Lasry has been spending mightily to try and get up his name recognition. He appears to currently be in second place. But Joe, a lot of undecideds, even amongst those that say they're going to vote, they don't know who they're voting for. Do you see this race shaken up between now and August?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, listen, Mr. Lasry is not going to have the airwaves and the mailboxes to himself between now and primary day, right? He is communicating in a vacuum. Barnes, Godlewski, Nelson, presumably some of the other candidates will all pay to share their vision with Democratic primary voters. We got a long way to go. But there's no question at this point, Barnes is the front runner. Lasry is rising. Godlewski and Nelson are sort of rounding out that top tier.
Joe, not only did the Packers re-sign Aaron Rodgers, they tagged Devontae Adams. You feeling good about that combo?
I'll take it. I'll watch 17 football games with those guys next year. Hopefully more.
And then we'll lose in the NFC Championship. It's so heartbreaking, man. Come back. Vegas Joe, Crudy, Evan, you on the phones perhaps as well. 844-967-2789. More Devils.
Looking for a comer. This is awesome.
We've all felt left out. And for people who move to this country, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Live concerts. Getting back to the moments we miss starts with getting informed. Get the latest info about COVID-19 vaccines at getvaccineanswers.org. It's up to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Treat yourself to some Wisco Home Goods natural lotions or sugar scrub in 2022. I'm Don, one of the owners of this family-owned Midwestern business in Madison, Wisconsin. Our natural hand soaps, lotions, and sugar scrubs offer you the luxury you deserve. Wisco Home Goods self-care products come in a variety of scents you're sure to love. So go on, add a little pampering to your daily routine. Order at wiscohomegoods.com. Natural, healthy, nourishing self-care and more at wiscohomegoods.com.
Hi, it's Olivia Munn with my shelter pets, Frankie and Chance, reminding you that when you adopt a shelter pet, you discover all the things that make them unique. Adopt pure love at theshelterpetproject.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the Humane Society of the United States, and Maddie's Fund.
Hi there, I'm Kirk Bankstad and I own the Monaco Brewing Company. And I also have a super PAC. We make good trouble in the North Woods of Wisconsin. You can support our efforts at the MonacoBrewingCompany.com and buy our wove gear like t-shirts, hoodies, and trucker hats. Enter the code RADIO and get 10% off on your next purchase. A portion of all sales support the Monaco Brewing Company Super PAC, which is dark money meant for good. That's the MonacoBrewingCompany.com.
kicking ass and taking names since the Wisconsin Uprising, the Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Tuesday edition, a little sports talk live thrown in for good measure. I got my fine Packer fan buddy, Vegas Joe Zepecki. He's a dim strategist. I appreciate you coming around, Joe. I hear you're going to linger into the 5 o'clock hour. Maybe say hi to my buddy Dominic as well. But Joe,
well, I like it. Don't tell him, but I like him a lot better than you.
Oh yeah, I won't tell him. Well, small hit that, and it could crush my spirit. You know, speaking of small and humble ego over here, you know, I don't know if I can take that sort of ruthlessness from you, Joe. I want to talk about the redistricting here in the state of Wisconsin. Now, last Friday, I thought it was a done deal. The Wisconsin Supreme Court, by a 4-3 ruling, selected Tony Evers' maps. And maybe Tony was the most strategic. He submitted the least changed map. He met the criterion, and they selected his map by a 4-3. And it was the 3 liberals, and it was Hagedorn. And I don't know if you've seen some of the dissenting opinions, Joe, but they didn't like Hagedorn's choice much. The Bad Bradley and Ziegler, they were pretty personal in attacking him, saying, you know, he is a judiciary of one. I'm thinking, no, he's just the swing vote. And you didn't like his ruling because it wasn't partisan for your favorite map. Joe, do you see it any differently than I describe it?
Remember when Republicans would criticize people from legislating from the bench and sort of picking their preferred outcomes? Those are what we would finally call the good old days now. There were 4 votes. He's not a judiciary of one. He and 3 other justices picked maps. I like, this isn't that complicated. And, you know, the minority in this opinion, they can vent, they can be aggrieved, they can cry foul, but there's nothing to see here. These are the maps.
Well, I thought as the maps were accepted by the Wisconsin Supreme Court, I thought I saw a quote from Governor Evers. It was a hell yes. And, you know, they aren't fair maps, but they're fairer maps. And I said, you know, Tony is not going to appeal this. Dom thought Tony might appeal. I'm like, well, Tony effectively has a victory. They chose his map. How do you go appeal your own map? Well, we didn't believe it, but the Republicans, they chose to appeal. Joe, are there any tea leaves to be read by the U.S. Supreme Court's decision on Pennsylvania? And I believe it's North Carolina. I might be wrong on that, but they effectively rejected overly partisan Republican favored maps. And it seems like they don't want to get in the business of redrawing maps that lower courts have decided. Well, that seems to be the case with the Wisconsin case, but Republicans still appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court. Joe, tell me what you think might be coming back.
Yeah, I think the tea leaves are pretty clear, which is the Supreme Court, as currently constituted, believes that states should draw their own lines and figure this out. That appears to be what they've done in the 2 states you mentioned. And I would be very surprised if they, after saying no thanks to Pennsylvania and North Carolina, want to jump into the fray here in Wisconsin. So I think with about as much certainty as anything has, these are where the lines are going to be for this fall.
And Joe,
the next 10 years.
That makes it a little fairer. We understand the maps probably are about 55-44 Republican favored over Democrats on the assembly side, about 20-13, my understanding of the makeup of what they expect the Senate to be. Well, Joe, those are still depressing minorities, but at least you're not worried about losing the ability to uphold the governor's veto. That's the way they were trying to stack the deck, to basically give them a veto-proof majority. Well, you know, the only thing we have to look forward to in this 2022 election is trying to reelect the governor/goaltender, Tony Evers. It's a depressing circumstance. I'd like to see us advance Tony's agenda, perhaps. But at this point, we're just playing goalie, are we not, Joe?
I take a slightly different look at it, right? There are more competitive districts and seats now, and that's a good thing. I think people forget that just because the last election or the last 2 elections went a certain way, that means that people in those communities are going to vote the same way forever and they're going to remain static. That's not how the world works. people's perceptions evolve. What was suddenly, a 60% Republican district one election season is all of a sudden a 51-49 district the next. And when you're talking about assembly races, that means a few hundred votes. And so what I would argue that Democrats need to do is, okay, we know where the battle lines are. Now let's go out there and fight for the minds and hearts of Wisconsinites. I don't care if it's a 57% district in the last election. We got to get out and run in these things. We know that there will be at least 15 competitive assembly districts this fall. We better have great candidates in all of them. We better support those candidates and make our case to the voters of Wisconsin that if you want a legislature that works for you, you should vote for Democrats, because the Republican-led legislature doesn't even want to work at all. It is March 8th, and they are done for the year. How would you like to get paid full-time wages, have a full-time job, and be able to take basically 10 months off every single year? I mean, for a group of Republicans who criticize teachers for getting a whole 10 weeks off in the summer to take 10 months off, I mean, pretty absurd. So I think it starts there, and then it goes to the issues and the things that people care about and how we make Wisconsin a dynamic, thriving state going forward. Republicans are standing in the way right now, today, of Wisconsinites getting money back because of the state surplus that we've seen under Governor Evers' leadership. Republicans right now, today, are standing in the way of accepting the Medicaid expansion available under the Affordable Care Act. That would save the state of Wisconsin hundreds of millions of dollars. Republicans are right now, today, blocking any form of medical marijuana, much less recreational. Meanwhile, we are surrounded by states that have opened that up, and it means that we're missing out on economic opportunity in the state of Wisconsin. So the cost of inaction is what we're seeing, and that's the Republican playbook in the state of Wisconsin. So I'm happy to go make that case in a district where Republicans got 60% last time and in a district where they got 51% last time. I'm not that hung up on maps. We got to go make the case.
Tony Evers, new polling, Marquette University Law School poll. Tony's moving up, and Donald Trump very unpopular. Now Joe Biden, he's still in the doldrums. But when you compare the Democrats with the Republicans currently, Joe, there's got to be at least a little optimism.
Oh, for sure. I mean, listen, I said it on the day the Marquette numbers came out. Governor Evers' numbers are astonishingly good, given the political environment, given how much more favorable he is viewed than President Biden. So, the political environment may be bad for Democrats at the moment. Like I said, I think it'll get better. But clearly there is something that the governor is doing that is working for him. And I think we should not discount how much of it is staying above the fray, not getting into the partisan food fights of the day, and just trying to do the right thing. That's what this governor has done for the last 2 years during the pandemic. He is trying to do the right thing, and clearly people see that.
Well, it is contract signing day, and a big signee today, Gableman. He's got his contract extended. Joe Zepecki, I wanted to ask you about Gableman. You're going to have to stick around for one more segment. We welcome Dominic. Stick around. The 5 o'clock happy hour with Joe Zepecki and Dom is next.
Hey everyone, it's Abby with Downdrains Distilling. Come out to visit us and try our craft cocktails in our tasting room in Cottage Grove, Wisconsin, open year round. We also have a huge outdoor cocktail garden where we'll be hosting our first annual Bloody Mary Fest this March and
Here
other
comes
great
Dom.
events.
He's up here. You'll be able to talk to him.
Room in Cottage
Like
Grove,
when he gets here, you'll be able to talk to him.
friendly. For more information, go to downdrinsdistilling.com. That's downdrinsdistilling.com.
Hey folks, Stephanie Miller here. As an enlightened progressive, you know how important it is to do business in accordance with your politics. That's why Solidarity Realty is my favorite real estate firm in Madison. Solidarity Realty is a local independent realty company that lives their values. They provide outstanding expertise and protect your best interests while building community and promoting sustainability and diversity. Vive la resistance! Find them today.
Yeah, you guys
at
can speak to each other too.
solidarityrealty.com. And don't forget, tell them
Dom!
Stephanie sent you.
What happened to your face?
Check. Hey, what's going on, guys? Oh, good to see
What
you.
happened?
On the devil
Lawnmower accident? What happened?
Oh,
every once in a while, man, I got to clean up a little bit. It gets a little itchy. How you doing, Joe?
I'm all right, brother. Prudy said I could stay on and give you a hard time for a little while, so here I be.
Oh, I look forward to it, man. Good to see you, dude.
And we both got our home bridges. You see that light right there?
I do. Oh, the hone. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's cool. How you been, man?
Oh, I missed you. What'd you say?
How you been?
Oh, yeah, I've been good, dude. I've been good. I have no complaints. No one listens anyway. Yeah, dude, we gotta head out in Sharwood, man. I think I'm gonna go to what's a peppermint or the new joint on like Saturday.
Buttermint. We went a couple weeks ago. It's really good.
Yeah. How's the bar, man? You know, I'm a big fan of the bar.
We had cocktails with our meal. We didn't sit at the bar at all. But they make some nice potions. I'll put it that way.
Cool. Yeah, I haven't. I tried to check it out. But
shoot me a text when you're done. You know, you want to pop over to camp or Broad House or something. You know, draft investor.
I'll come for drinks, man. So I'll let you know.
You're not eating?
I well, you never know. But yeah, I think Saturday. So I'll put you down, man. I'll get a hold of you.
Awesome.
Gotta get a drink, man. It's happy hour. All right. Joe's.
It's really hot. It's really hot. It's weird. It's weird to see you without the beard, man. It's freaking me out a little bit.
Oh, I was just good looking. I mean, the chin, man. I mean,
maybe that's what's surprising. Like, wow, there's a really handsome young man under that beard.
Hey, never let him see you coming, Joe.
That's right.
So I heard you. Who are you on? You were on. I heard a few minutes of you on a more inferior radio product. I think it was maybe TMJ a while back. Last week.
I do Scafidi every couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Did I sound like I knew what I was talking about?
You sound, you're so reserved. I couldn't tell. I mean, it sounded like you. I'm like, God, is that Joe? He wouldn't go on this asshole show, would he? No, yep, it was Joe. No, you're good, man. You're very, very presentable. You're very thoughtful and considered in your commentary. So I appreciate that. Not my style. Fuck that shit. But I appreciate what you do.
Now you boys realize you're going out on the Facebook live stream, right?
Yeah, that's fine. We'll be all right.
Eco-friendly. If it's snowing, they'll get you there.
Curry, what's up, man?
Hey, how you doing, brother?
Good, man.
Signing day.
You're set.
I know, man. Gableman got a contract.
Yeah. Great minds think alike.
Oh shit! I can't believe it. You fucking kidding me? The judge says, "Man, there's no shit to see here." Boss is like, "Give that man more money." I mean, I want that job.
Make a difference to change the world.
You know what I'm saying? What the
Hey,
fuck?
just a reminder, boys. As far as Chicago and progressive voices are concerned, they're not going to hear the last part, so I'm going to reintroduce Joe like he's a fresh guest.
All right, man.
This hour plays out nationally for us, Joe. Tape delayed in Chicago and different places.
COVID has made it
so
hard
we
for
made
everyone to
you
get
made the
access to their
national
favorite
show,
products.
brother.
Knucklehead CBD and
Hey,
vapes
welcome to
makes
the
it
big
easier to
time,
get all
baby.
your smoking needs with their new
You know who doesn't play in Chicago? Steve Scafidi.
Hey, if you could pick another media market in Wisconsin, not Milwaukee or Madison, what market would you pick? To
Eau Claire.
Would you?
Eau Claire Lacrosse.
No, you wasn't looking to sell a radio station in Eau Claire Lacrosse.
But you consider it the same market though? I mean, those towns are a ways away.
Yeah, same media market.
They are. Really? Okay.
It is. Yeah. We used to.
For Devil Radio,
We were
92.7
like
FM and
WXOW
I'm Luke
and
Mathers with your headlines.
yeah,
In an interview yesterday,
WAOW was
US
up
Senator
in
Ron Johnson announced that
somewhere,
Republican
but-
lawmakers should attempt to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. If Republicans take Congress,
Hey,
in
you see
2024,
Rojo and the Guardian
Senator Johnson
backpedaling?
admitted that would require Republicans
What's
to
he
come up with a
backpedaling
replacement
about?
plan before
During
that.
the radio
Something
interview,
Republican
I
lawmakers
used
have
our
claimed
failure
they
to
had
repeal and
throughout
replace
efforts over
Obamacare
the
as an
past decade to
example
repeal
of
and
how we need
replace
to
the
prepare to
ACA.
deliver
Oh,
on
did you
whatever
see him-
agenda items we decide to
What is
run on.
anticipated to be the
I was
final
not
election
suggesting
session of the
repealing
year
and
today,
replacing
where it plans to
Obamacare
pass a
should
number
be one of
education
those
bills that
priorities.
do not have the support of
Yeah,
the
you kind of were.
Yeah, so what are you telling me? You're
Forecast today will
pro
winds up to 15 miles
Obamacare
an hour
now?
and a high today of
Or
Well, I
would you
know-
repeal it if you could?
I know he's pro freedom convoy. He met with those yahoos this morning.
You're
Oh,
listening to
great.
Him and
Radio
Ted Cruz.
92.7 FM and WTTN 15.
I'll get
Slippery
there.
hands, Ted Cruz.
I'll get you boys there.
Devil Radio programming is produced live in the Solidarity Realty Studios. Find them at solidarityrealty.com. Solidarity Realty. There is an alternative.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. 3, 2, 2, 1. Now live from the Devil Radio Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Here is your host, Mike Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, sliding into the Tuesday happy hour. And I got 5 code devils to the left of me, to the right of me. Well, to the left, there's fighting Vegas Joe Zepecki. He's a fine dim strategist right here from the great state of Wisconsin. And of course, the regular 5 o'clock fare, the buffet fare, sort of under the heat lamp. There's Dom.
Hey, it's only Tuesday?
It's
Damn.
only Tuesday, man. You didn't even go to Ozzy this week or Slash or whatever.
No, not yet. Tonight will be another night.
They wouldn't let him in with that clean look. You know, the clean lines, no beard. They get this square out of here.
Oh,
I know.
I didn't know they had a height requirement.
Come on, most of the great Curtis rockers in the world are the short guys. Joe Zepecki, good to see you, Crudy. Always a pleasure, man.
Yeah, you as well, buddy. Let's start it off, boys. The big signing today. It's signing day. Well, Gableman got extended contract.
not the Packers. It's Gableman.
Well, of course, the Packers have a little bit of big news. Aaron Rodgers, $50 million a year. That's a lot of cheese. And Devontae Adams, he's been tagged. So we'll be talking Packers a lot this fall, I suspect. But boys, what about the Gableman re-signing? Joe, I want to start with you, man. Holy schmoly, he didn't do anything except come up with conspiracy theories. And now he's getting, what, a new contract and probably a raise built in, right? Kind of like Aaron Rodgers.
To be clear to our dear listeners, this is not Crudy's opinion that he's not doing anything. A judge reviewed the records of this so-called investigation and gave it the legal equivalent of, what have you been doing for all this time? There's nothing in these records. There's no evidence of an actual investigation. And so I guess my question is, like, $40 to $50 million to throw a football is a lot, but I know how that works and what the marketplace does and how good that is for the economy. What is the $11,000 a month that Gableman is clearing? What does that do for the state? And which is a better bang for the buck? I'm leaning towards the right arm of number 12.
No doubt, Crudy. Let me just read briefly from Judge Frank Remington. I believe that it's for every man now to examine these documents. He's going to release hundreds of pages of documents. This open records issue from a liberal group.
Are you going to read the documents, Tom?
No.
You're waiting for Jim Santel to read the documents
right.
and encapsulate them, abridge them for us.
Cliff notes. The judge goes on to say, and I believe When done so, he will come to the conclusion that this has been much to do about nothing, that these documents do not support the argument that there has been an investigation, much less the conclusions that have been made by the Office of Special Counsel. What? Not only that, these documents didn't show anything, but they also tried to hide the fact that they weren't doing anything. I mean, is that really what this is about? And then, boss, today, the Speaker of the Assembly in Wisconsin gives this guy a new contract. I mean, I want that job.
I wonder if he got a signing bonus, Joe.
You guys have heard the phrase going to lunch for a living? That's what this is. He's getting paid $11,000 a month to go and eat at all these places around the state of Wisconsin. And the taxpayers are paying for that too. He doesn't even have to pay for his own lunch.
Well, he also does some out-of-state traveling, apparently Maricopa County, and a cyber security ninja cyber audit thing that Mike Lindell did. And apparently they also were receiving emails from Mike Lindell. I'm sure nothing but the best conspiracies contained. Can't wait till they hit the open market.
My pillow crackhead guy. I mean, this is the consultant for the former disgraced Wisconsin Supreme Court justice. I mean, this is an absolute joke, and we're joking about it, but this is offensive on so many levels. I mean, number one, the guy's getting paid to do jack. I mean, literally jack. He's not doing a thing, and not only he's not doing a thing, then he's coming up with conspiracy theories. Everybody be concerned about your elections, and I think, thankfully, Megan Wolf from the Wisconsin Election Commission, others on that commission are pushing back, but it needs to be a full on. This is a hack job. Gableman's getting paid to be a hack, and it is damaging our state.
And Republicans are trying to cover it up. Just today, the Wisconsin State Senate, a proposal put forward by Senator Tim Carpenter from Milwaukee to audit this investigation, to watch the watchers, attracted the votes of 3 Republican members of the state Senate, bipartisan support to audit what Gableman has been up to, and the Republican majority was still able to stop it. They don't want anybody looking and seeing where this money went. It is a scam. It is a scandal. And you are right. It's not a laughing matter. People should be outraged by this.
Well, if someone's going to be investigating the investigators, it's going to be Brad Schimmel and the John Doe 3. Folks, you are listening to the Devils Advocates Radio Show, the Happier Happy Hour. I got Dom to the right of me. I got Joe Zepecki to the left. And gentlemen, apparently the contract has been renewed. This was just an interim report. How's he going to top it, Joe?
I don't know. So as I understand it, he's extending it through April. He is not adding any additional dollars to it. There are some pending legal matters, these disputes over the records and some other challenges to the investigation. So listen, we should all hope that the clock is ticking and this thing is over and done with at the end of April. But I think Democrats need to keep pushing. We need to figure out everything that they did during this investigation. This is far from over, but hopefully the conspiracy crackpot theater of it will be done with.
Do you think it will be an albatross? I mean, Robin Voss should have shut this down. You got your pound of flesh conspiracy report. The guy said, let's pull back the electoral college votes. I mean, Voss claims he's not a believer in that. He stripped the staffer from Ram Jam for doing the very same. But he's going to give the guy a new contract to continue paying him for the same work product that he punished Rantham for effectively. Well, that and a lie about
he's trying to have it both ways. And the problem is that's really, really tough, right? As I understand it, Voss now has a Republican challenger to the right of him who is going to primary him. You can't, feed the baby alligator in your bathtub and just go, oh, look at how cute. It's going to be fine. It'll stay well under control. You keep feeding that thing. Eventually, it's going to eat you.
So then what happens then, Joe? I mean, Rantham, got like 5% the Marquette University Law School polling.
It's early.
Presumably that will go up. How much do you think, how much impact do you think this mentality will have on the Senate race?
Well, on the governor's race. I think more than you think, because the whatever it is, 5, 10, 15% of the Republican Party that is fully invested in this, they are madder than hell. and are going to give Rampton the money he needs to go on TV, to get in the mailboxes, and to make his case, not only is that going to win him support, it is going to pull the other candidates, Nicholson and Clayfish, further into crazy town. They're going to have to spend, weeks and weeks talking about the 2020 election as opposed to where they want to take the state of Wisconsin. And I'm here to tell you, independent voters are not going to like that. There's going to be a cost for Republicans in the fall to how long they've let this drag on.
Joe, don't you think right-wing talk radio will somehow create a shield and exempt Rebecca because they see her as the chosen one? Nicholson might spend his money around the state, but let's not forget they picked Leah Vukmer over Nicholson the last time in the Senate race. I don't see anyone except Clayfish winning southeastern Wisconsin because she's got the Belling and O'Donnell and right-wing talk radio machine.
And Nicholson's got a sugar daddy. And $10 million can buy you a lot of paid communication. Nicholson has shown no compunction about taking on what he calls the establishment Republican class. You think he's going to be afraid to take on the establishment conservative talk radio in southeastern Wisconsin? He will burn it all down if he can be king of the ashes.
Okay, but it's going to be Rebecca Clayfish against Tony Evers after August 9th. Tell me I'm wrong.
I don't know that you're right. I don't know that you're right.
Come on, 63% of the time I'm right every time.
Well, I mean, Lindsey Graham kind of said it. I think we're seeing this play out on a state level here in Wisconsin and nationally across the country. You got the crazy wackadoodles that are down on this, and you have those like Voss who want to capitalize on that emotion and bring their folks out. But you got to try to balance that with, driving away those who would think that, listen, you've had your chance. We heard former Speaker Paul Ryan say it. Trump had his chance. We heard Ron Johnson say it. Hell, if the same Republicans would have voted for Trump, the voted down ticket, Trump would have won. I mean, their own leadership has said this, and yet they still, on the other hand, kind of feed this animal.
Yeah, I think they're in a world of hurt. I mean, there's been talk of a Republican civil war. I think that's kind of what we're seeing, and we're still in the early parts of it. The Republican Party is breaking kind of before our very eyes because there are still responsible Republicans talking about the Liz Cheneys and Adam Kinzingers of the world, and they're fighting against the Freedom Caucus, Tea Party, Tim Ramson and Mike Lindell conspiracy theorists of the world, and we don't know how that's going to shake out yet.
Joe, do you think the January 6th committee, the public hearings, the primetime hearings, do you think they will move the electorate at all? Do you think people will be shocked when they see, I mean, it's on videotape, a lot of it, the violence against cops, etc.
Whether or not they're shocked, they'll be reminded. And by dragging their feet, Republicans have just succeeded in making sure that voters are reminded closer to when ballots are cast this fall. So there's a lot of chapters left to be written here. I don't see how any of this is playing out well for Republicans, particularly as you start to see Biden's approval go up.
You know what? Aaron Rodgers is the most hated player in the NFL, and we just signed him to a 4-year, $200 million contract, and the special prosecutor, Gableman, the most corrupt and hated former Supreme Court justice in Wisconsin history. Well, he's making at least $11,000 for a couple more months. So if you see him out, see if the man can spare a buck, buy a drink, produce some work product. Joe Zepecki, thank you lots, buddy. Talk to you real soon.
Thanks, Joe.
Bye, Dom.
More Devil's Advocates.
You care for the house, the kids, and our future. A Shiro's day is never done. So let's start saving a little more now. Get free tips to help boost your retirement savings. Visit aceyourretirement.org.
Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
If you came across someone struggling with hunger, how would you recognize them? Would you notice a 16-year-old boy who got his first job,
not for extra spending money, but to help feed his little sisters?
Or a mother who's in between jobs and sometimes goes to bed hungry so her kids can have dinner? I am the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger. I am hunger in America.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerinAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
President
Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates, and he would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org.
Hey, son, how are you feeling?
I'm fine, Pops.
What's on your mind?
I can't explain it.
When your kid can't find the language, find the lyrics. Start a conversation at soundedouttogether.org. Brought to you by Ad Council and Pivotal Ventures.
Spruce up your home with soy candles from Wisco Home Goods. I'm Don, one of the owners of this family-owned Midwestern business in Madison, Wisconsin. Our candles are 100% sustainable and come in a variety of unique blends and scents. Did you know our candle jars are also double old-fashioned glasses? That's right, buy a candle and you get a free cocktail glass. Check out our blog at wiscohomegoods.com/blog for more information. That's wiscohomegoods.com/blog.
Charged, never convicted. The Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines are open. We can take your calls. Toll free, talk or text. Hit us up 844-967-2789.
Dominic, do you remember in college, UW lacrosse grads, both of us? I'm not sure about Joe, but I know I've got a diploma now up in my office here.
How many years were you there, Crudy?
A lot.
Doctor.
It was approaching a decade. I did have a good time. College far exceeded my expectations, but one thing.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that part was fun as well. Your friendship, it's stretched for nearly 30 plus years. But anyways, here's the point. You remember air guitar and Hutch, like in the pit there.
Oh, yeah. They'd have they put on like concerts and people would do air guitar to,
like to the whole song, like you would act it out. Now, let me ask you, Dom, you did that, didn't you? Air guitar.
Man. Nah, I'm not against air guitar, but no, that was not my jam, man. I have a guitar. I have a couple guitars.
Do you play
a big amp? I make up for my lack of talent with volume.
As do many of our callers at 844-967-2789. Before we get to them, Dom, you mentioned Rojo.
Yeah.
Something that you saw, something of a backpedal from our pal. Is he not expecting parents to make decisions and raise their own children any longer?
No, I'm
now
not
it's
sure.
Society's problem.
I'm not sure he backpedaled on that. The Guardian reported, and we talked about this briefly yesterday. I'll lay it down for you. He's speaking to Breitbart News yesterday.
He backpedaled on ivermectin, and it's effective. No.
He said
take all the drugs. He backpedaled on that one.
Got to try all the drugs, Rudy. Yesterday, he said that Republicans could actually make good on what we established as our priorities if they won the control of Congress in the midterms and the presidency in 2024. This is what he said yesterday. For example, if we're going to repeal and replace Obamacare, I still think we need to fix our healthcare system. We need to have the plan ahead of time so once we get into office, we can implement it immediately, not knock around like we did last time and fail. And of course, we talked about that.
Wasn't he at the kegger at the White House? They repealed Obamacare, didn't they? They celebrated the repeal of Obamacare. And I know he voted for the repeal of Obamacare, but that one pesky John McCain, the thumbs down, man. They were all ready to do it without a plan.
A replacement, yes. And so today, after, getting a little grief from the Devil's Advocates and everybody, he released a statement stating, quote, "During the radio interview, I used our failure to repeal and replace Obamacare as an example of how we need to be prepared to deliver on whatever agenda items we decide to run on. I was not suggesting repealing and replacing Obamacare should be one of those priorities," end quote. And I wonder, Senator Johnson, you may have not been suggesting, but I'll ask you, do you think that one of the Republican priorities, if you were to take over the House and the Senate in 22 and the presidency in 24. Should one of those priorities then be repealing Obamacare? Because you voted for it once already. What a hack.
Wanted to point out what Ron was up to earlier today. I know I mentioned it on the show earlier. You might have been working. Ron was working. meet with some Freedom Convoy dudes. Him and Ted Cruz hanging out with the Freedom Convoy. The Patriots. Just want to give you a little bit of the reporting of the Daily Mail. If this comes as redundant to the audience, find a better radio show.
Thanks for sticking around so long.
This is what the People's Convoy leader said. This is wrong. And I can see that without having to worry about the science, mandates and such. He doesn't need any science to show him it's wrong. Organizer Brian Brassi told Senator Ted Cruz and Ron Johnson of Wisconsin, out there pushing his own ivermectin remedies, I suspect. It's time to listen to the people. It's time that government is reminded they work for us. Sounds like you, Dom.
Oh, yes.
It's time that a new renaissance period, a renaissance of freedom. Now, that was the organizer.
Wow.
They've joined up with other convoys, Dom. Apparently, they're up to like 3,000 vehicles. A lot of pickup trucks, I suspect. But, they've made it to D.C. and they've been driving around the Beltway. And, some disruption in traffic. They've got 3,000 vehicles on a road that currently accommodates 500,000 vehicles per day. So, they're like half of 1% of the traffic log for the day. But I'm sure they're making a big splash. Here are a couple of their ask, Dom, because the ask list, the grievance list, it's gotten a little bit longer.
Well, yes, please clarify. While I'm down with anybody's right to protest, what exactly is the problem?
Well, this convoy comes as most COVID rules are relaxed and lifted altogether, with the convoy now dramatically expanding its demands to lawmakers in an attempt to gather the same momentum as its Canadian predecessor.
Momentum, i.e. cash.
The People's Convoy has come together and created a community, a massive community. We're going to keep looping the Beltway until we're heard. We're not going anywhere. Senator Cruz applauded the convoy's organizers for their efforts, saying, what y'all are doing is incredibly important. A little bit more here. One of the things COVID has done is revealed truth. This Ted Cruz quote. And the truth is revealed that a lot of politicians are petty tyrants. And I'm thinking Ted Cruz looked in the mirror this morning and realized
the bill.
And there are a lot of big tech executives who are happy to censor in silence, because Rojo got kicked off of YouTube for a while. Senator Johnson echoed the sentiment. Here's Rojo's quote. This is the big payoff, I hope. Senator Johnson echoed the sentiment, hailing the leaders as patriots. They have been peacefully fighting for their freedoms as Americans should. They're fighting for freedom, and they're going to continue to fight.
Who are they fighting, and what are they fighting for? I mean, there was no federal, right? No specific federal mandate. I mean, I can understand.
Well, the courts actually checked the Biden mandate, so there is no mandate. There's no mask mandate. There's no vaccine mandate.
I mean, there were individual mandates in states and cities and municipalities. So why not go, circle around, Milwaukee?
Well, Ted Cruz said the corporate media is trying to paint the convoy as a bunch of loons, because they want to make decisions for their own lives and their own family instead. One of the guys said, we're not anti-vaxxer. We're pro-choice.
Really?
And I think he was not trying to be ironic, but, hard to tell. They could be clever sorts, but not predicated on the prior quotes. More devil's advocates, always clever-ish enough. For you, you're listening right now. Come back.
Supplying your political fix in the back roads, WTTN 1580 AM and Wisconsin's home for Devil Radio.
Hi, this is Brad from Zero Res. If you need someone to help with your carpet cleaning, business or residence, please give us a call. We have the best system available and an amazing team of friendly technicians. Call us at 848-9000 or schedule online at zeroresmadison.com.
This is Rocker, and I'm sitting here on the patio at Salvatore's Tomato Pies, freezing my butt off. So I'm headed next door to the Dark Horse Art Bar for a Rocker Rye whiskey to warm me up. It's a high rye with just a touch of malted barley. It's yummy. Find Rocker Spirits at Festival Foods on East Wash and Woodman's grocery stores. You must be 21. Please drink responsibly.
Stream Progressive News and Talk 24/7, as well as download exclusive podcasts and interviews at devilradio927.com. That's devilradio927.com.
Russia's war. I'm Tim McGuire with an AP News Minute. As Russia's military becomes increasingly brutal in its war on Ukraine, including bombing cities, killing civilians, Vladimir Putin and his government have been isolated. Deputy Undersecretary of State Victoria Nuland.
President Putin has not only attacked Ukraine, he has trashed the UN principle of self-determination of states and questioned Ukraine's very right to exist. He is testing the foundations of international law, and he is testing all of us, and NATO, and the EU, and the G7, and democracies around the world.
President Biden bans imports of oil from Russia, adding to the gas and price increases in the U.S. and elsewhere, while also delivering a warning to the oil companies.
We understand Putin's war against the people of Ukraine is causing prices to rise. We get that. That's self-evident. But, it's no excuse to exercise excessive price increases or padding profits.
I'm Tim McGuire.
I'm Joel Clark, a Select Quote agent, with a true story that could save you hundreds of dollars a year. A woman named Linda just called. Her husband, Ray, has a group life insurance policy, but is changing jobs and he can't take it with him. Well, I went to work and found Ray, who's 40 and takes medication to control his high blood pressure, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for only $19 a month. That's way more coverage for a lot less than what he was paying. If SelectQuote didn't shop for your life insurance, you're probably paying too much.
For your free quote and to find out how much you can save, call 1-800-597-2010. That's 1-800-597-2010. 1-800-597-2010. Or go to selectquote.com. Since 1985, we shop, you save.
Get full details on the example policies at selectquote.com/commercials. Your premium could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. Yesterday, Public Health Madison and Dane County issued a drug overdose alert for the county due to ambulance and hospital data showing more than double the number of drug-related overdoses than typical in recent days. The abrupt ending of a contract with a California-based COVID-19 testing company for the Madison Metropolitan School District is now being looked into by the Wisconsin Department of Health Services. The school district claims it is not the deciding entity that ended the contract, but the third-party clinic, COVID Clinic, states the district halted the testing services. It is unknown when the Madison School District will be able to resume testing with a new contractor. The University of Wisconsin system will undergo a system-wide sweep of facilities to ensure all dormitories are up to code after a UW-Milwaukee dorm that lacked carbon monoxide detectors had a gas leak last week that sent 17 students to the hospital. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Devil's Advocates, the fix for political junkies everywhere.
Back to Devil's Advocates radio show, the happier half an hour. We got like half an hour left. It rolls on. I got Dominic as my co-devil. You on the phones as well. 844-967-2789. And Dom, before I give you an update on the state of fascism here in the state of Wisconsin, I understand you've got a fascist update from the Cheeto Messiah.
He has spoken, so say we all. From the Raw story, a quote from the Orange
How'd you
Jesus.
beat me to the Raw story, man?
Man, here's what the Trumpster had to say today. Congratulations and thank you to Robin Vos, Speaker of the Wisconsin State Assembly, and State Assemblywoman Janelle Brangen, Chair of the Committee on Campaigns and Elections, for standing by highly respected Justice Michael Gableman on the incredible findings just announced on election fraud in the great state of Wisconsin. Trump said, referring to Gableman as highly respected, even though he's received harsh criticism for running the most racist ad in the history of Wisconsin politics. Trump concluded that there can only be a decertification of electors, even though that's not legally possible, and would not change the fact that Biden won the 2020 election and is president. A continuing quote, I feel confident that Robin will exercise his moral duty to follow up on Justice Gableman's findings, in addition to announcing that they will stay in session and take action to get rid of ERIC and the WEC, which have done some very bad things and made review very difficult. Also noted by the Legislative Audit Bureau. Based on the Gableman report, I would imagine that there can only be a decertification of electors.
Well, I love that he arrives at the same conclusion as Gableman and now attributes these findings to Voss as well, who I thought was on the other side of this issue, but just trying to pacify the man.
And now he concludes.
Let's hear the conclusion.
This is one of the biggest stories of our generation, even though the fake news media will try and play it down as much as they can. Trump said, even though he has yet to present any evidence of fraud widespread enough to change the election results. Numerous other states are likewise finding large-scale election fraud and irregularities, the former leader of the free world falsely claimed. Interesting time! Exclamation point. Yeah, so Trump, I guess apparently now what? The Republicans in the state of Wisconsin, that they've checked out for the year, like they
already made the announcement. That's
No. Trump feels confident that they're going to come back and deal with these very, very, very important issues.
Now, Tony Evers tried to have a special session today, and on the Senate side, LeMahieu, I didn't hear about the assembly, but one must assume they were just as rude. And they gabbled in, they gabbled out. And the question that Evers won the special session on, should Wisconsin taxpayers receive, a little something back for the effort? Gunga galunga.
Got that going.
Because we got this huge surplus. Never heard that word under the last guy, right? Scott Walker never had to give back a surplus.
Scott Walker, he told you 100 times, Crudy, he solved a $3.6 billion budget deficit.
Well, Republicans gavelled in, gavelled out today and declared they're done for the year. They're still cashing checks for the year. They're just done working for the year, except for the campaigning, very important campaigning to do. But, you think Trump can entice them to show back up and do their freaking jobs, overturn the Electoral College in the state of Wisconsin vote tally in 2020? I mean, they've been tasked. The emperor
they have. I mean, he was, Robin Voss has been mentioned multiple times in this statement by Donald Trump by name, saying that he should exercise his moral duty. It's a moral duty, Speaker Voss.
Well, that's where, you're going to find Robin's got a little shortfall.
Him and
morals. If that's the standard, Robin's not going to have a special session.
The biggest stories of our generation. Literally, the judge reviewing the open records case in the state of Wisconsin as it pertains to the special counsel Gableman that Trump was referring to, looked at all the data that he's going to release coming up soon and said there's nothing there. There's no investigation, let alone any proof of the accusations that Gableman is making. I mean, this is quoted today, the judge who saw the documents. And here's Trump saying, this is one of the biggest stories of our generation. I mean, it's so disconnected.
Well, apparently there were rants against the Wisconsin Elections Commission, Mark Zuckerberg, and the star of the 1987 film Predator, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
What?
It's not a tumor. No statute prohibits the release of passwords. They apparently also emailed over a password for the Dropbox, the secure Dropbox with evidence. And the judge said, Remington, no statute prohibits the release of passwords, and the public has no interest in keeping its government's irresponsible digital security a secret. So in other words, your emails,
SOL.
Well, all the way around their SOL. That is not even the only ruling of that sort against the fascism in the state of Wisconsin. You remember Preen, the guy that refuses to vacate his seat on the DNR board.
Oh, yeah.
And he refuses to release any of the public records, claims, well, I'm a volunteer, so therefore I'm not subject to open records laws. Case went against him as well today. A case seeking to require the Natural Resources board member, Frederick Preen, turn over his text messages related to his refusal to step down from the board will move forward. A judge ruled Tuesday, dismissing an attempt by Preen's attorney to throw the case out. In a February 21st hearing, Preen's lawyer argued the Natural Resources Board member wasn't a public official because he's a volunteer, not paid for the time he spent serving on the board, that he refuses to leave.
He's
You're
squatting.
not even getting paid. That's the worst part. Just leave.
Well, he's not getting paid by the state. He's probably getting paid by someone.
Well, do you think that's in the text messages? You think he's got
Ooh,
a
yeah,
contract for $11,000 a month?
I mean, why even be secret about it? Just put that out in the open. I mean, if Voss and Gableman can get away with it,
Come on, Voss
everybody
and
should be
Gableman.
getting.
The guy was acting
Contracts.
without a contract. They didn't even sign the contract before he dropped the report. They waited for the report. That crap sandwich nothing burger. You know, not exactly in the words of Judge Remington, but I paraphrase.
Pretty close.
But he basically said, you've got nothing. Well, anyways, Midwest Environmental Advocates, the group that filed the suit, this one against Frederick Preen, the little fascist that won't leave the DNR board, argued that Preen is a public official. And apparently, Judge Everett Mitchell on Tuesday agreed with the advocacy organization, saying that Preen's tenure on the board has a relationship to state natural resource policy decisions, the decision-making process, and the governor's ability to appoint new members to the Natural Resources Board. You're a public figure in that you won't leave if nothing else. That kind of
Well,
sucks.
you can't have it both ways. I mean, you can't say you're a volunteer, because if you're a volunteer, the DNR board would just simply say, well, your volunteerism is no longer required. Please leave. I don't know why then is just lock the guys, change the locks on his office from day one.
Well, he's only staying, according to him, right, Don? Because, they've got to what? Vote in the Senate that's off for the rest of the year, unless they come back for a special session, not to give us back our tax dollars, as Tony Evers would request, but of course, to do the bidding of Donald Trump. How long do you think we'll hear? You think it'll be today, tomorrow? The special session. Republicans have changed their mind. They're coming back one more time.
Come on. I don't buy it.
And they're doing a special session to vote on overturning the Electoral College and the 10 electoral votes for Joe Biden. Do it. Do it.
Do it. Speaking of Schwarzenegger, do it. Come on. Do it now.
I'd like to see that. So
what a disgrace. I mean, are you freaking kidding me? So they won't come into session to deal with a surplus. And of course, with rising gas prices and all the things going on right now with inflation and so forth, people could use a few bucks. They won't come in to do that, to deal with the constituency, with their constituents, with the voters, with the citizens of the state of Wisconsin. But they might consider. I mean, the leader of the Republican Party and the 2024 presumed nominee is specifically requesting the Assembly Speaker of the state of Wisconsin to, although they gavel out for the rest of the 2022 year, to have them come back and overturn the election. I'm really looking forward to see how Voss handles this request.
Well, it'll be more per diem for everybody, Doug. Per diem, where the real money's made in politics. Just ask Gableman.
You're right.
844-967-2789. I wonder if he's got that in the new contract, like all travel. Any scrap of paper I give you is good enough. Pay me.
Well, still got to get past the Wisconsin Department of Revenue and the IRS. And if you're writing that stuff off, I mean, it's one thing to get compensated for, but is it not then, if you can't write it off, is it then not then declared as income?
Well, you think he shouldn't be paid for his drive up to the Chippewa Falls Republican Party meeting where he called for Senator Kathy Bernier's resignation?
The Republican?
Because how dare she challenge him? And of course, on the Republican side, the Republican-controlled Wisconsin Senate today, a resolution put forth by Tim Carpenter to audit the investigator, and 3 Republicans, including Kathy Bernier, they were all down for that. And of course, that was shelved. That's not going to happen.
Well, maybe they'll get around to it next year when they get back to work.
We give you no public records. The man's not under contract.
He didn't do anything. I mean,
he
literally
didn't do anything. Right. Literally, according to the judge, there was no investigation undertaken, no actual investigation. Or what? He's withholding records, perhaps, from the judge. They've already been fined for that.
Yes.
Which I'm sure at some point he's going to hand a slip back to Voss, and we, the taxpayers, will end up paying his fine, or he'll find some other expense
or
level
as,
for like
as,
$999.
Or as Trump would put it, the highly respected Justice Michael Gableman.
Do you think the RNC will also pay Gableman's legal tab? No, that's we the taxpayers. Let's get to the phones. Jake from Milwaukee. You're up, man. Say hi to my little buddy Dominic.
Hey, what's going on, Jake?
Oh, Dom. Who's this Dom guy?
Yeah,
I just hear a bunch of like righteous indignation.
I got plenty for everybody. I got enough to go around, Jake.
I think like you have it saved it so much off. It's still going on right now from being off the air.
Righteous indignation and lots of white girl problems.
Yeah. So I heard Gableman is getting prima noctum actually from the legislature. I think they could legislate that for Gableman.
That's the third word today I've been stumped on. What does that mean?
That means he has the right to sleep with any woman on her first night of marriage. That would overturn everything if that was true.
That's like the British soldier thing back in the day, right, Jake?
Yeah, that was in Braveheart, actually.
Well, be careful, Voss, because you might be moving on from 4 to 5 any day now.
Well, I was just saying about the Wisconsin Republicans; they're just useless unless you're rich. But two things. CJ, has he been calling because Gary's back on, and have they start fighting? Who is the best right-wing caller?
Who's the biggest troll? No, CJ's been off for a couple days. I like it like that. Let's not encourage him.
Oh, okay. No, they should both call out at the same time and contradict each other. It'd be great. And the other thing, this whole Gableman thing is about one thing only: saving Voss's hide, because he is the biggest one of the biggest slime ball politicians we have in this state. And that's all it's about. It doesn't matter. He just wants to give some red meat to the liberal haters.
Jake, we got like a minute. We got like a minute left. I mean, I hear that's the calculation. I would agree with you there, but do you think that he is regretting that now?
Like today?
Because his supporters.
How about on special session day? Will he regret it?
No. Very special session day. That's it. Very special session. All they need is to own the libs, and the supporters don't care. Period.
When do you think Jake, appreciate you listening, man. Thanks for the call. Dom, when do you think Voss will, roll out the vote to repeal the Wisconsin Constitution? Because it's going to get in the way of this other little action they're trying to undertake.
His Highness Donald Trump. I don't know, by the end of the week.
Come back with us. We'll be doing this all week long for Devil's Advocates.
Plenty of people start something great in their 40s and 50s. Getting your retirement savings on track is no different. Go to aceyourretirement.org, and in 3 minutes, you'll get personalized tips to help boost your retirement savings. That's aceyourretirement.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
America, your children have an amazing superpower. That's right. They can help save lives by simply washing their hands. Just 20 seconds of thorough hand washing after they've coughed or sneezed or been outside can help fight against the dastardly spread of germs. Armed with only soap and water and hands, your superhero can protect you, your family, and everyone out there in America land. Amazing. Find out more at coronavirus.gov. A message from the CDC and the Ad Council.
Treat yourself to some Wisco Home Goods natural lotions or sugar scrub in 2022. I'm Don, one of the owners of this family-owned Midwestern business in Madison, Wisconsin. Our natural hand soaps, lotions, and sugar scrubs offer you the luxury you deserve. Wisco Home Goods self-care products come in a variety of scents you're sure to love. So go on, add a little pampering to your daily routine. Order at wiscohomegoods.com. Natural, healthy, nourishing self-care and more at wiscohomegoods.com.
She can stand, she can do more. Like build a rocket and watch it soar. Clean the oceans and make the world a better place. Oh, she can STEM.
Learn more at She Can STEM. A message brought to you by the Ad Council.
Hi, folks. This is Kirk Bankstead of the Minocqua Brewing Company, and I'm excited to announce our new beer, AOC IPA. This IPA pays homage to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a champion of the progressive movement. AOC IPA is now available in stores throughout Wisconsin. Check our website, MinocquaBrewingCompany.com, to see which stores in your area are carrying it.
The Devil's Advocates, tackling the issues you're not allowed to talk about at the dinner table.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Last segment of the day, 844-967-27. If you have something to say, just want to give a shout out to all the women of the world. Happy International Women's Day. And specifically, Brittany Griner, a basketball player, a WNBA player, is in custody in Russia, of all places, for having the
devil's lettuce,
a couple vape cartridges with hash oil in it. So she's facing up to 10 years and is in custody in Russia as we speak.
How am I supposed to put a positive spin on that one? Dominic, I wanted to turn to perhaps lighter fare. Bruce Murphy, Urban Milwaukee Online Daily. Supreme Court shows ugly divisions.
Wisconsin Supreme Court.
Oh, yeah. I want to read from the body of this piece. You know, the ruling, the 4-3 ruling to send the Tony Evers version, as the redistricting maps. Well, that didn't sit well with the bad Bradley Ann Walsh, and she wrote the dissent. And I want to read from Murphy's writing. Bradley accused Hagedorn, the swing vote, Dom, who wrote the majority opinion favoring Evers of operating like a Supreme Court of one, contending he does not have the power to do so. But in fact, Hagedorn often has the only vote that counts because the 3 liberals and the 3 conservatives are so predictably at odds. Hagedorn, the former attorney for Governor Scotty Walker, who won his Supreme Court seat promising to be a strict constructionalist, and has done just that, while the other 3 conservatives are more likely to simply back Republican legal demands. As a result, Hagedorn has occasionally sided with the liberals, as he did in this case. Let me get back to a couple of the quotes, though. All of which seem to have frustrated the 3 conservatives, whose anger boiled over in Rebecca Bradley's concurring dissent. She was particularly angry that 6 of the 7 justices did not agree with Hagedorn's approach, as the 3 liberals signed an opinion arguing that the continuing partisan advantage of Republicans should have been addressed by the court. But they went along with Hagedorn's approach as the least objectionable alternative. But the 3 conservatives' anger also arose from the fact that Evers had outfoxed the Republicans by offering political maps that moved less people into new districts as a way to live up to the court's prior rulings, right? And after seeing this, the Wisconsin Republicans wanted to send new maps. And then Tony Evers wanted, send new maps. So the main dissent was written by Ziegler, who called Hagedorn's ruling nothing more than an imposition of judicial will and an exercise of judicial activism. How dare you? The vapor, she does often wear the pearls, Dom, to favor the big city interest over more rural identities, carving up Wisconsin communities for the stated and unstated interest of the governor. The charge that Hagedorn, a Federalist Society member who worked under both a Republican attorney general, you remember Schimmel, couldn't even remember his own website, and of course there was Scotty Wanker, is out to help the Democrats, was probably quite amusing to him. Got anything more, Dom? You wanted to...
Wow. Hagedorn seemed to float above all this angst, noting relative facts, quoting decisions, and avoiding any attacks. Quote, the governor's map moves the fewest number of people into new districts. It is not a close call. Evers' proposal for congressional districts moved 60,000 fewer people than the next closest submission by the state's Republican congressman. And while state Senate maps moved about just under 2,000 more people out of districts than the legislature's maps, his assembly maps moved about 96,000 fewer people than the legislature did. Since the 2 maps must work together, with 3 assembly seats nested with each Senate district, this made Evers' maps vastly superior in terms of creating least change. Evers quoted, we also conclude that Governor Evers' proposals satisfy the requirements of the Wisconsin Constitution. All districts are contiguous, sufficiently equal in population, sufficiently compact, appropriately nested, and pay due respect to local boundaries.
Yeah,
Hagedorn,
but
I think,
they
is-
don't favor Republicans by enough. How
Now-
dare Hagedorn? He's a court of one.
Literally
Judicial
on the
activist.
radio. I heard a conservative talker, perhaps it was yesterday morning after this came out, saying that since the maps, Evers maps, made an additional district in the city of Milwaukee from 6 to 7.
Yeah.
And although, as we talked about on the show, they're barely above 50%. Well, according to conservative talk radio, that act alone shows just how racist the Democrats are. Because they didn't ask for it. And conservative talk radio in the city of Milwaukee went on to say that most black people they'd vote with Republicans. They just don't know it.
Well, you better educate them, Dan. Dominic, here's the conclusion of Bruce Murphy's piece, the online daily urbanmilwaukee.com. The bad Bradley has quickly become the most radical conservative activist on the court, whose readings of the law seem to give her unlimited license and whose intemperate language could be used in law schools to illustrate the kind of raving rhetoric a judge should avoid. Bradley's attacks on Hagedorn includes comparison to animals, deriding the majority opinion as a wolf that does not even try to masquerade as a sheep, and beginning her opinion with a quote from Aristotle that sets up her attack against Hagedorn. Here's the quote from Aristotle. Passion influences those who are in power, even the very best of men, who may become like a wild beast. It takes one to know one, says Bruce Murphy. Hagedorn's acting like a wild beast.
Yeah, because
and she's
Hagedorn
quoting Aristotle.
Is just a picture of energy and craziness and wild animalness. That's
and Democratic
Hagedorn.
partisanship, because he chose the governor's maps.
The Federalist Society guy.
Yeah, because of the least change criterion that they all signed off on, along with Hagedorn. They were part of that 4-3 ruling when he wasn't a, judicial activist, when they, force-fed Evers and the People's Maps Commission, all those people.
What are you going to do with a progressive socialist Marxist like Hagedorn?
Come join us on the Devil's Advocates.
No, for real, man. At least the guy seemingly is down, shooting as straight as he sees it.
Well, he's sort of a Roberts Republican.
Right. Yeah.
He's sort of a Roberts Republican. I think he tries to find the compromise, but I think ultimately he is not the judge that we thought he was. Certainly not the way he was characterized in the ads. And he has not been, partisan enough for the right. And that's why he's being vilified from their side.
Yes, no doubt. You can't really blame people when you see how the other judges act, So if you have 1 out of 4 that isn't BS crazy and just essentially an arm of the politics here in Wisconsin, odds are if you're a Republican Supreme Court justice, that's what you are.
Well, at least Hagedorn has never, as far as I'm aware of, been accused of choking a bitch. That was Prosser. He would have voted correctly. He'd have picked the right maps. Thank you all for listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. I hope you learned something. I learned 3 words today, or at least 3 words stumped me. Thank you, Vegas Joe Zepecki. Those aren't the 3. Thank you, Dominic. Thank you, Evan, for taking us all the way home. Now stick around, Native Roots Radio. Then Busted Pencils, educated educators talking education right here on Devil Radio.
We all know Wisconsin's favorite cocktail. That's right, the Bloody Mary. And Wisconsin bar and restaurants are the best at it. And now it's time for a standoff. Who makes the best Bloody Mary?